Duck Stream is tomorrow. This is our yearly live stream for the Transactive Gender Project. Please tune in. Go to www.duckfeed.tv/duckstream and tune in, donate. It's going to be a blast. All kinds of weird shit is going to happen. It's mostly streaming video games, but it's also going to be streaming hijinks. And I know you like hijinks. And yeah, it's for a great cause. Let's smash our fucking goal out of the water and do some good around the Yule, around the holiday. So please tune in. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs, a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are beginning our two-part discussion of Shadowrun Hong Kong. This is a
Shadowrun Hong Kong.
That's the Mad Magazine parody.
Yeah, what? What the? Dickers and cyber spaz.
I wish I knew more runner slang off the top of my head.
Yeah. Get wise, Dreckhead.
Blackhead.
I mean shit. Yeah, blackhead, but then it would like, black means shit and Dreck means shit. I don't actually know what black means. No one knows what it means. Alfred E. Newman should be killed with a hammer. The fucking cryptid. Yeah, like he's disgusting.
This is a CRPG. This is a Western RPG month. This was developed and published by Harebrained Schemes for the PC in 2015.
Yeah. You play as a kid who grew up in the Redmond Barrens, in the street, so a rough neighborhood. You're called back to Hong Kong, or called to Hong Kong by your estranged father. To deal with an emergency. Your foster father, who was of Chinese descent. Yeah. When you arrive in Hong Kong, nothing is as it seems. You are drawn into this big underground conspiracy and end up becoming a Shadowrunner.
Yeah. Trying to unravel things. Pretty basic setup for a Shadowrun thing. Doesn't have to be any more or less special than that.
Yeah, for people who experience these games vicariously through us, Shadowrunners, this is a tabletop setting. We'll talk about all that stuff a little bit. But you are basically like an operative. You're a crime. Yes. You're a crime boy. You go and do crimes for money.
Yeah, you're a deniable asset for corporate espionage kind of stuff.
Yes,
and crime and always gang crime. Yes,
all kinds of crime. It's crime time. This is an expansion pack / sequel to Shadowrun Returns and Shadowrun Dragonfall. We've talked about Shadowrun Dragonfall 2 years ago, episode 264, January of 2020. This is very similar to that. There are advancements. We're not going to get into too many of the particulars of the engine. We're going to give you the basics of it, because they're really, really similar. There have been some advancements, but they are not sea changes generally.
Yes. So rather than recover a lot of that ground, we're just going to give you the broad sketches. I think generally here, it is a remit of the show, or it is our standing opinion that like a mission pack sequel is not actually a bad thing.
Not at all.
What Harebrained Schemes has put together is this really cool storytelling engine. And if they just decided to put out one of these every 2 years, that was basically the same, but with new writing and characters and stuff, that would be A-okay. So
I would love it.
Yeah. And then we're not damning this with sketchy description, let's say.
Yeah, we don't have all the information on how people listen to the show.
Mhm.
We operate as if people have listened to the episodes that preceded this, even though you don't have to. So if you want a more detailed explanation of those things, you can listen to that Dragonfall episode up through the generalities. I think that both these games are worthy, and neither of which are things you want to have spoiled if you might play them. It takes a while for the plot stuff to get started in Hong Kong, but the end game, the overarching plot is very good. A lot of cool shit on display. It just takes a while to show its hand. So this episode should be safe. But generally, if you are interested in these, play them and then get spoiled on them.
Yes. Yeah. They've never been easier to get a hold of. Yeah.
Yeah. They put out the trilogy on Switch.
I know. It's crazy.
Which is how I played it. Yeah. Which I have some issues with that. I'll talk about at the end of the section.
Yay. Yeah. Also, even though the Dragonfall episode was a premium one, the preview is just the generality section. So if you're not a subscriber, there's no chance that you could be spoiled on anything.
Yeah. So in general CRPG fashion, you move around in real time, in an isometric field of view, doing exploration and dialogue and such. And then when it's time for combat, you switch to an XCOM like grid system. Each side of the battle takes every member of that team's turn all at once, and the next team goes. And your actions are governed by action points.
Yeah.
That you have.
Pro tip, anything you can do to maximize your action points and minimize the enemy's action points makes you into a god.
Yes. It is about turn denial, not so much as, Divinity Original Sin. This is somewhere between it's like a Wasteland 2 level of complexity.
Yeah.
Almost exactly. You are still doing turn denial and move denial and things like that. It's not nearly as robust, but it is has a degree of rigor to it.
Yeah. It's actually kind of just the right level of complexity for me. Like I love the battles in this.
I love the combat engine in this too. I could fight in this all day.
Yeah.
It's really fun to me.
Yeah. It's not, exhausting is the wrong word for something like, well, XCOM is exhausting because it's so high stakes, but something like Divinity Original Sin, does tend to be like, each battle is, kind of a workout,
It's a
whereas
meal.
Yeah. Whereas with this one, it's just like, keep them coming.
There's a snackable element to the combat in this. I appreciate greater complexity in this. Yes. The way that I think about it is that this is the floor of complexity I appreciate. I don't want combat to ever be simpler than this.
Yes.
But it's still in that sweet spot. Like I could just chug this all day long in terms of fights. Yeah.
So in combat, cover factors in very heavily, along with distance to the enemy for your hit chances and such. Your team will likely consist of a diverse set of Shadowrunners with different weapons, magic, and technology. For anybody who's unaware, Shadowrun is a setting that is kind of a combination of cyberpunk and magic, like D&D style fantasy stuff. There are orcs and trolls. Yeah.
So one of the big innovations that Hong Kong has over Dragonfall, each of these iterations do these expansion packs improve the engine as well, which is part of how they don't really feel like expansion packs. They were sold as such, as you have the base game and you could buy this. You could also buy them individually, but huge improvements. The big one here is the ability to enter combat at will, similar to the old Fallout games.
Yes.
So things that would be real time, you can switch out in a turn-based form, either for combat, allowing you to ambush enemies or get the jump on them. If you see enemies before they see you, you can get get the alpha strike in, actually a term, or you can, sneak by them in the combat engine, which is a Fallout trick, things like that. Alternatively, you can go into the combat engine for time-sensitive other things, like if you're sending a drone into a vent to open a door before a patrol goes by or what have you. You can do it that way.
Just did a mission yesterday, the one on the boat, the whistleblower mission that uses this for stealth to a really good effect. It's great. This is, yes, they are pulling it from Fallout, but it is a wonderful complement to the systems that were already on display here.
What's interesting, them pulling it from Fallout, I don't think that was cited as a influence, but something that I read doing research for this is that Harebrained Schemes specifically has a design philosophy, in their team, that is basically above the doors. It says stealing is okay.
Mhm.
Like you can steal, they recognize that there's, nothing really new under the sun here. If there's something that they can borrow from another game and make it better, they will.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why the combat feels so much like XCOM combat, right? Like they're explicitly just being like, let's do XCOM. That makes sense for Shadowrun. Like we're going to tweak it. It's going to be a little bit different, but let's do XCOM.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that because there are 2 modern XCOM games.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever that third one that no one talks about is with the super team, the alien team.
Yeah.
There aren't very many of those. So like, to me, that is, it's the same expansion behind being okay with the expansion packs, or the same philosophy of being okay with expansion pack sequels. There's just not a whole lot of that space that is colonized.
Mm-hmm.
I have room in my heart.
Yeah. And just, if it works, it works, like there is an upfrontness about it that feels the opposite of shameless,
Yes.
I cannot imagine somebody, saying, oh, this has XCOM's combat that is unsatisfying to me. It's like, no, that's actually a really well thought out thing.
Yeah.
Like it's a good system.
It ends up being a unique kind of mix as a gestalt without any individual element being totally innovative.
Yeah.
Which
weirdly fits in with the cyberpunk thing to a degree.
Yeah, exactly. It's made up of kludged together parts and arms and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing that has improved is the hacking system. You are you have a decker who can plug into the Matrix. Previously, that was basically just a reskinned version of the turn-based combat kind of stuff. A way that they have changed it here is to add like a real-time stealth element. So there are special programs on patrol, these little iBot looking things that have patrol routes. You can see the lines that they're going to follow. You can see the vision cone, and you are attempting to get through to the data stores and, to the levers you need to, pull in order to affect the real world, right? Without being spotted. If you get spotted, then you enter the turn-based combat. And your detection goes up and the response goes up, until Black Eyes comes out and does real damage to your decker.
Yeah. You have a little detection meter. Depending on the type of program you're avoiding, if they see you, it will add to your trace count.
Yeah.
And you can manage that vaguely with a program you can only use in combat to reduce that heat down there. Certain things will shut down if it's at max heat. Or if you're in combat mode, you have to kill everything. Yeah. Every iteration of this since Returns has made these little innovations to the decking system. This is my 3rd time playing Hong Kong total since it came out. Because I revisited after we did Dragonfall. I was like, I don't think they've ever quite got this right.
Nope.
I have some real problems with this system. The patrol routes start out as complicated as they end up for things. They all have a trick where there are overlapping routes, and you just don't move quick enough for it. Like, it's very easy to get caught and get kind of stuck in a spiral, because once you get caught, you're in turn-based mode. That little iBot will follow you. You don't want to get caught by other iBots though, and a lot of the Matrix area is part of their patrol routes.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of lead that iBot out and then kill it before it raises the alarm too much. Every turn, it's raising your trace meter 20. And depending on the level, you might have 150 as your limit. You might have 350, but 20 is significant regardless.
Yeah.
It's going to keep going up. The other thing that happens with this big innovation is they've changed the way that breaking into data stores and stuff works. With this, to me, absolutely fucking perplexing duo of hacking minigames.
Yeah.
The first one is Simon. And you do Simon for a while of increasing complexity. And you think like, oh, you do Simon for a while. Like that can't be that much. It's just one door. You do 9 iterations, like 9 rounds of Simon.
Yeah.
And then you do this thing where you have to choose a code between these glyphs, and it's going to flash the correct one in the correct position. So you're waiting to kind of remember, which sigil is in which position, and then choose the most likely string.
Yeah.
It's really tedious, and they give you the ability to bypass it in exchange for 50 trace, which after the first couple times I took every single time.
It's a bargain.
It's a bargain. And my matrix runs, instead of being this cool stealthy infiltration, became, how can I get to the door with the most amount of trace left over so I can bypass it so I don't have to play this mini game?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty damning.
Yeah.
Like, I like this game a lot. It's not perfect, and they are stumbling towards something a little bit better. It's just amazing that they've never matched the Sega Genesis Matrix. Like, the Sega Genesis still has the best Matrix that like a Shadowrun game has done.
Yeah, and that is wild to me, because that is you asking for JRPG combat.
It's a very short, only a couple of counters JRPG thing with a lot of different where status effects matter. Like JRPGs where you play 3 fights, in the middle of another game. That seems fine.
Yeah.
This also does not do a good job of emulating what you're trying to emulate with this, which is your characters are in meat space. They're in a rough position. Your decker has to perform to bail them out.
Yeah.
Something that happened comically at a climactic mission of this, I don't want to spoil it because it's near the end. I had a decker working on something. The people in the real world killed all of the threats. So for every decker turn in which I tried to accomplish this annoying task, I had to just make everyone pass their turn in real life, like just hang out. It was very counter dramatic.
Yeah.
So I am willing to say decking still doesn't work in this. Other real problem I have with decking is more grand design kind of based as opposed to nitty gritty, is that if you don't play a decker, so they give you a decker in the game, you're going to want to use the NPCs in this because it's a Western RPG, which means like companion quest. And I've grown to really like this crew. Like at first, they're not as good as the Dragonfall crew, but on this playthrough, I was like, you know what? These guys all have their charms. Yeah. I like these guys. She is weirdly, her equipment never improves.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like her deck never gets better, so she can't really do like more damage. All she does is she gets more AP.
Yep, she gets more ability, and she'll get better programs, and you can buy programs for her, which will help, but those are always on a cooldown. It just means that like you're kind of incentivized to play a decker. Like this crew is less balanced than the Dragonfall crew.
Yeah.
You are in, there's more overlapping characters and there are more holes in it for you to fill. And then these half holes. Like I did not play as a decker, but there's a good argument for it, given that the decker you get in the game caps out at kind of crummy.
Yeah.
As a decker.
Yeah, no, I definitely very early on hit a wall with Isabel. And I like her as a character, but
she's great.
It's just a bummer.
Yeah. It's super bummer. And she's really, she's a cool character. She's also useful outside of the Matrix, which is cool. Like, she's great. Yeah, she's a great character. It's just they should have just made her deck improve.
Yes.
So it's an elegant. It's not a great implementation of the system. Keep going, guys. Like you'll get there eventually. It makes me wish they had done one of these every 2 years since then, because we would be on, this was 2015. We would have 3 more iterations of this, and I think they'd finally get
it. 6 times the charm.
6 times is a charm. That's what they say in the shadows.
Speaking about Isabel's kind of progression, that takes us to the point about just general crew progression. This is handled differently as well. Everybody levels up at once, or accumulates, even if
all
they
your
are not
companions.
Yes, yeah. All of your companions, accumulate experience, even if they are not along on the job, which is good.
Hear that, Pokemon?
You do not level them up by spending karma, as you do with your character. Instead, you like a lot of stuff about them progresses automatically. But when you go in, you get the ability to choose at each karma level, or each level, rather, one of 2 abilities from either track. They are not exclusive. Like you don't need to pick one and then follow with it. You can just kind of take it a la carte. Yes,
the abilities are. So it's do you want the ability in slot 1 or 2, and then once you've done that, you've made your choice. You move on to the next slot.
Yes,
similar to how augmentations work in Deus Ex.
Yeah,
I am always happy with this kind of system for companions rather than building them with the same level of detail. And these choices they do a really good job of balancing these out. There are fewer like just clear slam dunk winners than you might expect. There are a few choices that are no brainers. But there are a bunch of them that are like, man, I would like to have both of these.
Yes.
And that's something that always keeps me engaged.
Yeah. It's a super giant trick. No.
Yeah. And it's a great trick. There. They also reveal a little bit something of character in these as well. The two paths each character has kind of represents generally like two kind of character modes for them.
Yeah.
So, your starting character with this, your brother, who is an ex-cop, his paths are lethal and non-lethal. Like, is he going to embrace being a Shadowrunner and doing what's necessary, or does he stay on the straight and narrow and value human life, like in the far-flung fictional future cops do? So in the fantastic world of post-awakening Shadowrun, cops value human life, and you can pretend like that's true here. It's a fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything can be true, everyday objects, can be used to summon demon spirits.
Yeah. Also, cops enjoy non-lethal force. It's pretty wild. But those are two different like paths. That's his conflict. His character is about missing his old life and being shunted into this. He's the one who takes to it the worst.
Yeah. And that's a good example to bring up when we talk about like either option being attractive. So like, and in most games, lethal or non-lethal, that is a moral choice. You're making for good boy points, right? It's a common problem. And this non-lethal equates to, again, turn denial, reducing your enemy HP or AP rather, putting them to sleep. Doing area denial kind of stuff, still very valuable. And if you are running as a street samurai, if you're doing gun combat, which is what Duncan is specialized at doing, he is still valuable to bring along if you specialize him to do the non-lethal stuff, because that is effectively a different and complementary style of combat. So like these specializations are a way for you to like get rid of what otherwise would be kind of default redundancies just based on class. You can subclass them in a way that complements the rest of the team.
Yeah. Yeah. It's either you are trying to burn down high threat targets with DPS, or you're trying to disable them while you take care of their ads. It's like two different play styles. That you can do. And that sounds very simple, but it's in a complex matrix of your entire team who are also, supplemented with items. So every character can do that to a degree using stun grenades and things like that. It ends up being, when I talk about the Gestalt, like talk about this being more than the sum of its parts, that is where the kind of rigor comes in. And this isn't just XCOM, because your characters are more different than the characters in XCOM, and you can outfit them with a lot of different doodads. Like you are you're not a specialist in this. You do a wide variety of strategies.
Yes.
So exploration and dialogue take a little bit more focus than they do in Dragonfall. You spend a little bit more time. There's more words in this. It's still reading month. Each mission gives you a lot of ways to avoid combat, where you can do stealth, ability checks. There's also a surprising amount of you talk to everyone and explore the world, so it influences your options in the end game. Stuff more than there was in Dragonfall. There was a good amount of that in Dragonfall. There's even more here.
I like that stuff.
I do too. I like that stuff. It's the text in this is good. We are just reading a lot this month, and again, I sound like a fucking idiot. You cannot understand how much I'm looking forward to Heretic. I gotta start blasting, or I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. Like, if I don't start blasting, like last night, I started playing Hades. Just because I was in Switch and but I wasn't feeling super good. I was like, oh yeah, this is blasting, but also no one shuts the fuck up. Like, I have a need to not read for a minute.
You need to relax your eyes.
Yeah. It's real rough stuff. This crew, like we mentioned, it's a little less interesting than Dragonfall, but that's hard because Dragonfall is one of the all times. I think it's in the pantheon. It's not as good as like, say, the Torment crew. But it's really great. This is slightly less interesting, but still pretty likable. And each crew member is more specialized. You have fewer kind of hybrid characters there, which mechanically makes your character's kind of class choice and everything more important.
Yes.
You are going to build your crew around what you provide, your character provides, and fill in those blanks. And they do it. This crew is a really good job of allowing you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a distinct caster. There's a distinct decker. You have a very good rigger in this, which is not something that I remember from Dragonfall. Right?
Yeah, you don't get a rigger in that one. You also don't get you get a caster in this, but it's a support caster. You don't get an offensive mage in this one. That is what I played. And this is the first time I played a straight up mage in one of these games. What did you play for this run?
Street Samurai. Street Samurai specialize in, I initially wanted to do pistols, but then I remembered, oh yeah, those are really low damage. So then I pivoted to assault rifle, sniper rifle stuff. And I also put points into charisma to get some etiquettes. Like I've got the Shadowrunner etiquette and corporate etiquette kind of deal. Those give you special conversation options.
Yeah, and will allow you to get past certain obstacles and such. It's interesting the way that this, because the NPC companion characters are handled through this hybrid system where they just kind of level up on their own, but you make choices. It means that there are whole systems when you make a run through of this that you do not engage with. So like playing through as a mage, I did not engage with cyberware. Like there are a whole bunch of cool toys I didn't get to have. Whereas as a Street Samurai, you could play with those. However, since the team doesn't have a mage, there are a bunch of mage spells that you can find or buy that your playthrough didn't allow you to use.
Yeah.
So it's got some replay value in that, and it really does respect what kind of character you want to play. This. Yeah,
I dig it. Is there any other kind of mechanical stuff that I missed before we get into aesthetic kind of deals?
I don't think so. I mean, it's pretty similar to the last one. I think that like if you played any of these games, this you'll pick this right up.
Yeah. So like the companions, the narrative here suffers in comparison to Dragonfall. I think that is partly just like different story, different writing, but also maybe a preference thing. This is very fixated on magic stuff. Demons, and you're in Hong Kong, you are in China post the awakening, so the idea of chi is real, right? So this is very concerned with kind of the more spiritual side of Shadowrun, which has never been my favorite part of it, and also this is real gang and corporate. Dragonfall, my preference, it leaned into my preferences a lot, which was more like political and technological intrigue, like the free city of Berlin. Amazing setting, right?
Yeah, the free city of Berlin is great. The docks that you spend your time in here is less good. This, I will be real curious if you feel that. Have you beat this?
No, I have not.
Okay. I'll be real curious if you end up feeling. I think that the end will do some redemption for you. It takes the lever of that kind of spiritual magical element of Shadowrun and basically plies it as cool as it can get.
Oh,
like it's real good.
Okay.
There's a thing that happens with these games. We talk about them making an expansion pack every 2 years. One of the reasons they don't do that is because Shadowrun has a fixed number of marquee cool concepts.
Yeah.
Right. And they burn through them. So to me, the grand overarching narrative of this starts weaker, but ends not stronger than Dragonfall, but ends, up there in the same ballpark as Dragonfall. The individual short stories do tend to suffer a little bit. And the reason why is because they've used up a lot of their marquee cool things.
Yeah.
And this was a problem even in Dragonfall, where Shadowrun Returns, which is, still like a B minus game, but is the weakest of the trilogy, used up bug spirits, which are one of the coolest things from Shadowrun. It would feel weird if they just did it again, So like a lot of the very cool things in Shadowrun have already been taken care of. Like there's that mission in Dragonfall where you get the cyber zombie or whatever.
Yeah.
The guy who, they've created this character and his essence is so low because they just keep jamming cyberware onto him. And, you can mercy kill him. You can, sell him, all those things. That's really cool.
Yeah.
This game has fewer of those. there are so like the mission that you're talking about, that whistleblower mission, that's really cool. That's dealing with some cool Shadowrun setting stuff. There is some stuff here that does that, but there's less of it.
Mm-hmm.
They've already used a bunch of them, and a bunch of them just end up being kind of missions.
Yeah.
It's got Shadowrun 3rd edition stink to it a little bit, like where it's dealing with things that were added after the best time, which was when I played it when I was a kid.
So, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like the mystical stuff can't be cool. Like Glory's mission in, this is fucking great. But
the adversary is wonderful.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that is me just liking Glory as a character, So
that's the thing, is that so there are 5 characters you get in this, 5 companions. We'll talk about them in detail, like as they get introduced, right? Your brother, who you get, is a pretty standard character. Does not have like a loyalty mission. He's basically a second main character for that. Yeah. And then you're introduced to 2 ladies who are with you who don't have a whole lot to them. Like, they're charismatic and they're fun characters. Like, I grew to really like them as characters, but they don't have as strong a hook.
Yeah.
As like a Glory does. And then the other 2 characters that you can add are much more hooky. And those are the 2 that I think stand on, with the first game's characters, but
absolutely
fully 60% of the characters in this are not as good. And they're likable. They're fun. Like, I love Gobbet. Like, Gobbet's great. Like, it's funny. Like, it seems fun to hang around.
Yeah.
But there's just not a lot to them. They're like too well adjusted or something. I want them to be like getting up in each other's face and shit. Like,
yeah.
They seem all right.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
No drama, low drama.
Yeah. Happy wife, happy life. Like, I just they're likable. So
yeah. Well, there's worse things for characters in a video game to be.
There's nobody who's fucking obnoxious.
Yeah.
There's nobody who I hate.
Yeah. Visuals are on par with previous entries. This is they do some real cool, like painterly style, isometric kind of deals. It's kind of hard to tell what's 2D and what's 3D, as it goes. It's a neat looking game without being like, technologically impressive. It doesn't have to be. The art direction is there. The music in this, I don't remember the music in Dragonfall being this really good. There are bops in this.
Yeah, the music in this is great.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably the best soundtrack of the 3. It's doing a thing where it's adding the local flair, but without being obnoxious about it. They're taking like Shadowrun music and they're adding like a Chinese musical component to it without everything turning into Camptown races or just, sounding really obvious.
Yeah.
Like, they're adding the instrument that's palace and stuff, but it still sounds very Shadowrun. Like the Hong Kong version of the leitmotif, the Shadowrun theme from the Super Nintendo game that they're still using, thank goodness, is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the music in this game. This is a great soundtrack.
Yeah. So like we said, this is the 3rd entry in Harebrained Schemes' Shadowrun series. What a miracle is it that after the nadir that was Microsoft getting a hold of this license and making a multiplayer first-person shooter, they just decided, all right, this studio wants to make a game in it, so let's license it out, and like it ended up here. It could have died with, it could have died in the video game world with that game. Right.
Easily died. It's the Jordan. I can't remember his last name right now, but it's the guy, the FASA guy who decided to do it. Like, I remember, I've told this story before when we did Dragonfall, but like one of the first PAXs I went to, me and Nick went, he held a like shareholders meeting for people who had kickstarted it, because it was like kickstarting games was less, de rigueur then, for people who had done returns, and did like a Q&A, and they didn't give him a panel for it. He couldn't get a panel, so he just like held it in a room.
Oh wow.
He's like, on social media, was like, hey, if you kickstarted the game and want to talk, like, come here. And we went there, and it was really positive. Like, he was just very realistic about scope, and stuff. Like, here's what we can do, here's what we're not going to be able to do with the budget and stuff. Like, it's a real passion project.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for that guy, and I hope that he's not a monster that I don't know about.
Yeah, so it's always a benefit. It was a bonus. Yeah.
Still gonna play BattleTech. Like, I like this dev a lot, and I don't particularly care for the license of BattleTech, but I trust them.
Yes,
I bet you it's fun.
Yeah.
So.
But they announced this with their Kickstarter in January of 2015. Blew its goal out of the water. Their goal was 100,000. They made 1.2 million overall. It funded within hours. Good success. The engine and tools were already created. And you look at interviews from them and they say like, yeah, our explicit goal here is we want to really focus on, new content, new characters and stuff like that. We've kind of already, solved a lot of the technical problems. We're going to be making the usual improvements, but this is story, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it's the first Shadowrun video game that takes place in Hong Kong, and they wanted to make it feel really different. There were source books and such for Hong Kong. Like, this is one of the canonical settings where you can play Shadowrun, but they'd never explored it in a virtual space. So they need to really concentrate on the feel of it and how it make it feel different.
Yeah. Leaning into this concept of, I'm going to mispronounce this, Guanxi. Just this, very corporate Hong Kong style of social network socializing. The idea of, just a very complicated system of like making and saving face, kind of deal. It is an interesting way to handle like honor. It leans more in this. It leans more into like the kind of a gang side of things as expressed here, which is like, well, no, I can't let people know that I can be fucked with.
Yes, it's. I was gonna say that this launders honor in a way for me. Yeah. Like I'm not very interested in honor as a motivation in a video game, and in part because I associate it a lot of times with blind loyalty. Which is something I don't respect, right? So like one of the reasons, like the plot of Sekiro fell flat for me is because of this idea, the characters in the world believed you had to obey a master or obey a father, even if they ultimately end up subverting that is the baseline. Yes. And to me, that's ludicrous. Like, you don't. Like, that just answers the whole plot. Like, it's very hard for me to put myself in that mindset.
Yeah.
This game, by framing it in terms of organized crime, basically, like, no, this is weakness. It's not dishonor. It's showing vulnerability that we have to, it's this dance. It does a really good job. Like, the character who's most focused around that, who's one of the characters you find, Gaishu, does probably my favorite honor story in a game. Like, he's really good. He's a great character. He's really interesting. His motivations make a lot of sense. Like, he crosses a line where I think he is genuinely badass. And God, I hate calling a video game cartoon badass, but like, I genuinely think he's like a really badass character. Like, does a great job. Sells it.
Yeah, and that's also kind of endemic to the setting. Gaishu is from Japan, which kind of has its own politics and its own kind of kind of imperial Japan revival kind of thing going on. Like, there are discussions about like a neo samurai's place and position under fascism, right?
Yeah, yeah, and the answer is not like must be loyal. Like, it just goes beyond that.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciate it. There's also a lot that the setting does for this to add to it in terms of just feeling like we don't spend a lot of time here. Like, we talk a lot about video games being in new zones, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I am now an adult and I understand that Japan and China have incredibly different cultures. I will admit, like, when I was a kid, I don't think I did understand that.
And American culture didn't do a lot to help you.
Yeah. And when I say kid, I don't mean like when I was 19. I mean, when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
The point I'm going towards this is that, like, we get a lot of games set in Japan. We don't actually get very many games set in China, though.
Yeah.
Like, it is
Sleeping Dogs.
Yeah. Like, there's a couple, but it just doesn't happen very often. And we're getting, because of that, we have a whole new set of not just those cultural mores, but a whole different mythology. Like, that is why the magic element of this, when it kicks in, feels really fresh to me, because it doesn't feel like either, as something from a Western mythology that I'm very familiar with, or another yokai. Like, I like a yokai, but we've done a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's not new. This feels like a new setting.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
And I mean, additionally, Hong Kong as kind of a crossroads of commerce from a bunch of Southeast Asia. Like you get characters and mythologies from like Indonesia and Macau being, you know, being pulled up in here again. You know, just things that you do not generally see represented. It is, you know, this has a regional focus as well as like the hyper local focus on what if Hong Kong was never given back to the Chinese, you know, political party, and what if it kind of remained this hyper corporate, you know, its own kind of, you know, anarchism, its own kind of capitalist anarchy, right?
Yeah. It's really refreshing.
Yeah.
You know, I really want to explore different settings and mythologies and stuff in my video games. And this ends up being a really great example of that.
Yes.
This got moderately good reviews. It's like 81 on Metacritic, which is about where the Shadowrun turn games live. Like I think Dragonfall is an all-timer, but like this is, you know, they're never going to be for everybody.
Yeah.
The consensus at the time was this is more of the same, and that's okay. And we agree.
Yes. Yeah. They released an expanded edition of this featuring audio commentary and also this bonus epilogue campaign that is notable for featuring tougher combat scenarios. Kind of the consensus is Hong Kong's combat is a little bit of a step down from some of the scenarios and difficulty in Dragonfall. The expanded edition kind of addresses that.
Yeah. It also functions a bit as a companion quest for your brother character, who does not get one in the main game. So it's wrapping up his arc and giving him the chance to go back to his old life or not.
Nice.
There. So I didn't play it this time, but I did play it last time I played it.
Nice.
And it's good. You know, it's cool because it takes place canonically after the events of this. So it's not like a DLC where they have to pretend like they're doing a side mission. Like everyone's just like, man, that was fucked up. Like this thing that just happened, and they're all still kind of living in the shadows of the climax of this game, which is pretty momentous.
Yeah.
So it's cool in that way.
Yeah. So like we said, harebrained schemes, they set Shadowrun aside after this. They worked on Battletech. They worked on their roguelike Necropolis. I remember you saying you didn't care for that.
I didn't play it. I just got really bad word of mouth.
Gotcha.
I never played it because I thought we could do it for WoW at some point, but like a roguelike Dark Souls with basically Star Fox graphics, like, but with janky combat. Like I don't really understand what it's there for, you know?
Yeah.
And every look at it I've seen, every YouTube I watched, it would look pretty bad.
Yeah. Also, like we kind of alluded to, they bundled this game up with the other two and released Shadowrun Trilogy earlier this year. First time it kind of hit consoles because of like a weird licensing agreement with Microsoft. It's like, hey, this can only come out on, you know, PCs and stuff, no consoles up until this year. And I want to hear, so you had issues playing this on the Switch?
Yeah. There's a couple issues with it. It chugs. So it's if you're in a big area, it gets kind of choppy, especially when initially loading. There were some crashes, which were annoying. The biggest issue though is really interesting to me, and I was looking forward to like bringing it up on the show. So if you're playing this on computer, you have this intricate little isometric town that you're moving through, and you click where you want to go. Right. And it's designed as such, like your character will just pathfind there. In the Switch version, you control yourself directly with the joystick.
Oh, weird.
The way that that's how it is in Divinity Original Sin. That's how it is in most console ports.
Yeah.
That's how the console port of Planescape Torment is as well. Like the Switch version. You move your guy around. Here though, the areas were so designed for that pathfinding, you are constantly getting hung up on little jags in the scenery.
Yeah. Because everything's so blocky. Yeah.
Everything is very blocky. It's hard to tell what is ground you can walk on. You know, so you have these things where like you're on this dock, you have to make your way over to your home base. There's a little bridge of two ships, and your character just walks on them kind of like they're flat, but they would have, you know, walls in real life. Like you would step down, you would step up. It ends up not feeling right.
Yeah.
And adding like a low key level of friction, like it's not game breaking. Like I still played it and beat it, and I appreciated being able to play in bed and on the couch and stuff.
Yeah.
But boy, it's an interest. I've never seen that concern, that kind of dissonance show up. Like, this is a world that is meant to be navigated by pointing and clicking.
Yeah.
And was designed that way.
I wonder if it'd be a better fit on the Steam Deck.
It might. Yeah. On the Steam Deck, I imagine you would move a cursor around and click, and that would probably work as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I ended up getting on Switch in the trilogy, in part because I wanted to play it in bed, and I didn't want to fiddle in case the Steam Deck needed fiddling.
Right.
And then part just to support the company, because I've gotten a lot of use and a lot of fun out of these games, and I want them to make more.
You wish them well. Yeah.
I wish them well. That licensing deal was the reason why they could make these games after Microsoft did that FPS.
Yes.
The bargain was you can make them, but they have to be for portable and PC.
Mm-hmm.
And the Switch ends up kind of being a cheat for that.
Yeah.
So,
although I think the trilogy version's available on PS4 and Xbox One as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize that. That's a renegotiation of some kind. That's good.
Yep.
They have expressed, Harebrained Schemes has expressed some interest in returning to Shadowrun, saying they have a lot of good ideas, a lot of cities to explore. There's one for every source book.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope they do.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be really excited to wake up tomorrow and have them announce Shadowrun Denver or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do Chicago, you cowards.
Do Chicago. You can do bugs again. It wasn't very good in Shadowrun Returns.
It's been enough time.
It's been enough time. There are more bugs. There are bugs other than ants in this world, Horatio, as that famous quote says. Yeah, so I would love to see that. And there's also, the biggest thing that I would love to see them do is UCAS politics. Like, there's this whole meta storyline in Shadowrun about Dunkelzahn, like this big dragon.
the dragon president?
The dragon president getting assassinated and leaving behind a really mysterious will.
Okay.
Like, one of the source books is just his will. Because it's nonstop adventure hooks. Like, it's a really cool, it's a real fun source book to read. And it's got there's just tons of ideas there. Like, the campaign, the set of missions that deals with that is called Super Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I would love, like, Shadowrun Super Tuesday.
Yeah.
As a game. That'd be great.
I really need to get a hold of more of those old second edition source books.
I've mentioned it before. Anything that says threats is great. The second edition threats book is really incredible, but it's just the, like, horrible shit in the world. So it's when they're talking about, like, bug spirits and toxic shaman and all that stuff, like all the good bad stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like that Delta Green book I love, Labyrinth, which is just like, here's some factions. Here's, like, modern day post-truth internet era, ways that, like, Haster manifests and stuff. Yeah.
I finally got a physical copy of that.
Oh, it's so good.
I've been rereading that. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Source books, man.
Source books.
I don't know what it says about me. It's a great way to read. It's fucking interesting. Yeah, I don't need all those conjoinders. Just give me the ideas.
Give me the blocks. Honestly, I want to play with these blocks in my mind.
Yeah, I just want a bullet pointed list of everything cool about a thing, with none of that messy fiction and transitions in between the two. That's the straw man version of me. That someone's yelling at, but, like, it is. There's a pleasure in that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's do a note about the structure of this one. So you have the intro, and you have the kind of the ending missions and stuff. But, like, the big kind of gummy middle of this is shadow running. Like, you are taking on jobs, and you are not necessarily compelled to do them in any particular order. So the order that I have here is not prescriptive. You will have likely gone through them in a kind of a different way. I was just kind of following my nose here.
Yeah. And just insert Duckfeed praise for a mission structure or a game structure where you do jobs.
Mm-hmm.
like that Baldur's Gate 2 innovation of like, here's an excuse to go see everything cool about our world.
Yeah.
I cannot get enough of it. I want every game to be that, basically.
Yeah.
So the game begins with a cinematic. This is actually also an innovation. They didn't have these before. These little cinematic things that are kind of like paintings that you move around, like motion comics, kind of, vaguely animated. This old man who once cared for you and someone named Duncan leave a message for you saying, meet me in Hong Kong. It's something to do with your past. And he does not have very much time left.
And we see how that goes. We see an animatic of some people arriving at the tea house that he's at. And then from outside, we see them opening fire. So, we're led to believe that there is a hit here. Obviously, we don't know this because our character and Duncan, who is our kind of foster adoptive brother, have this real rough landing at a port in Hong Kong. You have arrived here together. You haven't talked with him for a while. Like, it's a surprise to you that Duncan is now Lone Star, kind of a rent-a-cop kind of guy. And he has brought his partner / commanding officer Carter with him.
Yeah. And a note about role-playing in these games, you are given a lot of dialogue choices in this. It's very rare that it affects the game. It does sometimes, but really what you're doing is choosing what kind of character you want to be playing in the world.
Yeah.
It's very frequent you'll have, and you get to define those relationships. So like there are ways that are it's kind of gamified. Like there is a correct way to do it where you will get the warmest response and the most content. Right. So like you're meeting with Duncan, you're going to find out your backstory as time went on that you like abandoned, like you took off. And you ended up in jail, at some point. That's canonical. You get to decide why, and then you get to decide what your attitude is with Duncan. And like a cool thing that I didn't appreciate until playing this game a couple times is that like Duncan is your brother and he wants you to act like that. Like if you bust his balls and, joke around with him, he will warm up quicker than if you try to, big dog him, or if you try to be careful about his feelings.
If you try to be sorry cop.
You cannot be sorry cop in this. You want to be a rowdy locker room cop.
Yeah.
A jocular cop, jocular cop goes over a lot better in this.
Yes.
It can, in a long enough timeline, it can have kind of a fatigue effect because you get a lot of 3 dialogue choices, 2 of which are functionally identical.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long for you to see the strings that like a lot of times these don't matter. You just have to think of it as like a fun little thing you're doing to kind of play a role in a literal sense that doesn't actually impact the world. Like the actual way that you're going to impact the world through your roles are big choices at the end of missions and then your build.
Yeah.
Stuff, so.
Think of it as you are just kind of constantly, holding onto the throttle for your attitude, but that is not that throttle isn't attached to a lot of stuff.
You're helping daddy. Yeah. Like you're pretending to drive. You got a little fun steering wheel next to the. You're holding the controller while your brother plays. In this small respect,
you're helping daddy.
Yeah, you're helping.
Yeah.
When you get there, so Raymond did not meet you. Raymond was supposed to meet you and Duncan and Duncan's backup. The docks are instead empty. The gate is sealed. So you have to pass through this construction site, but run into some smugglers who attack you. This is Duncan, and Duncan's a cop. He's Lone Star. He's a rent-a-cop. He immediately starts big dogging him, and it starts a fight.
Yes. Yeah. This is combat tutorial. It's very basic. There are a couple different lanes that you can run down. There's lots of cover available to you. Nothing huge. More meaningful. Good.
It's really here just to teach you the importance of cover.
Yes.
The way that even light cover. So cover, I love the way that in these games it's signaled. You get a little shield that's filled in to a certain degree. Yeah. Light cover doesn't do anything except for prevent critical hits. I don't think, but that's actually really important.
Yes.
The idea that if you're in the open, you can be crit. That is how you will, if you're going to go down, like this game is not very hard, but if you're going to have a close call, that's how.
Yes.
Yeah.
More meaningful is when you get past this, and there are some more smugglers just kind of waiting in the in the streets outside of the construction site. They're not aware of you just yet, and this is where you learn about going into and out of combat mode. So you can either get the drop on them, or you can attempt to kind of sneak back and push a big crate out of the way of a fence to get forward. I decide, I wanted combat, so I decided to ambush them. So I didn't try and sneak through this. I imagine there's some kind of check when you attempt to move the crate without getting their attention.
It's worth noting that the way that XP works in this game, which is karma, we didn't talk about it in the first part because it's the same as Dragonfall, basically. You don't get it for combat. It's not a thing where every enemy you kill, you get 1 karma, because that would upend Buddhism. Like in a general sense.
Karma's meted out by the cosmos. No, karma's meted out by my 9.
Yeah. There's a karma bounty. and the trick is to get the most of it. So you do it for completing missions. So yes. The incentive to fight guys in this is purely intrinsic. It's because the combat is fun.
Yes.
And it says a lot that I still went loud a bunch of times because it was like, yeah, fuck it. Let's rodeo, let's rumble. It's fun.
Yeah.
You reach this crew of 4 after this, after you get past this section. There are 4 characters here. They're barely concealed weapons and they draw on you. But you explain to them hey, what's going on here? They explain that Raymond hired them. They were supposed to be his escort into the Kowloon walled city. Kowloon walled city, in case you don't know, was a real thing. It was a gigantic city block that's basically as densely populated as anything ever could be. It's the most densely populated area of Earth.
Yeah,
when it was available.
It was 30,000 people in 6 acres, mostly built up in a improvised and kind of ramshackle way. This was outside of Hong Kong. At a certain point, because of economic factors and stuff, this became a hotbed for crime things. It got so bad that the police would only go into it to do enforcement, in big crews. It was its own just pocket civilization. Fascinating stuff.
Absolutely fascinating. It's one of those things where it's very sad. There are a lot of sociological elements to it that make it very sad. I appreciate all of that stuff and love it. It also just became an incredibly surreal area on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It has, for me, in the same way I don't discount the suffering of this, it has Chernobyl appeal to me. Of just a surreal artifact of mankind's hubris.
Yeah.
Pocket cultures built up in there and stuff. It's amazing. In Shadowrun, it still got torn down, but they built a new one.
Yeah.
This idea is so cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's also a big part of what this game is concerned with. Yeah. But it's oh, we could just try it again. What if we? Okay, so the last time the last time this incredibly dense area sprung up, it was a nightmare problem, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if we just tried it again? Oops! Oh, we didn't expect it to turn into hell on earth again. Oh well.
Yeah. Except the reasons. The reasons are different.
Yeah.
Duncan is really shocked to learn that his adopted father was consorting with Shadowrunners. He has a very low opinion of Shadowrunners.
Yes. Yeah.
And as you're talking, snipers kill 3 of the people. Kill 2 of the Shadowrunners and Carter, your red shirt who came along. It's really canny that person's there. So it shows the snipers are not sighted. We're not, looking at one side. This is a cool move to get everyone's trust. They're against all of you.
Yeah, each of us has a body count, so there is nothing against us kind of teaming up. They call out, so it's the local police, it's the Hong Kong police force, and they don't respond to the fact that we're Lone Star, right? Duncan tries to pull out his badge, no, nothing.
They shoot out of his hand and it spins.
Flies into a big spittoon, makes a pating. Yeah.
Tarnation. He says his famous catchphrase. The Rot Shaman, who was one of the Shadowrunners in that group, finds an escape for you. But you have to get through this down the street full of enemies, keeping in cover that's covered by snipers. So you have to make it to this exit while slowly inching your way up.
This is a really good combat encounter. Like, I didn't expect it to get this intricate this early. But about partway through, enemies start coming in from the back as you go down this very long laneway kind of deal. There are choke points where some police are posted up. It's an interesting encounter for them to throw at you so soon after kind of basic tutorial stuff.
You have to constantly be making your way forward. Yeah. Like you can stop and engage, but if you're not making forward progress, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
You get to the sewers and we check in the people, we're like, hey, who do they get? Who do they kill? It was 2 Shadowrunners named Nightjar and Gutshot. Gutshot, horrible name for a Shadowrunner.
I love how everybody hates Gutshot. Like, Nightjar was our leader. Nightjar was a good guy. He was our leader. Gutshot, fuck that guy.
I hate that guy. They're trying to set up that, people work together. They don't have to like each other. Like, I play this game, I like these guys and I want them all to like me. But you can play a real asshole and they'll still work with you because that's how Shadowrun teams work.
Yes.
The Orc Shaman is named Gobbet. And the Dwarf Decker is named Isabel, but it's ISO Bell, spelled like an ISO. Gobbet is a orc, so she's tall and big. For some reason, the way her portrait looks, it makes it seem like these are just 2 little kids.
Yep.
With you a little bit. Like, she's bigger than you are, most likely. Does not come off that way in portrait.
No. She looks more like an elf in the portrait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really went hot orc. On this. Like, I'm not saying that this specific cartoon character is hot, but they really downplayed Orcish features to make her look more human. And then Isabel is a dwarf character, and they just make her sprite very short. They don't really have it show up in the portrait either.
Yes. So. Yeah. So we'll learn more about them when we get back to the hub and start spending time with them. But they're happy enough to kind of work with us to get to safety, right? Why turn down help again when they're firing on all of us? Duncan, he tries to radio for Lone Star reinforcements, but his credentials have been revoked. That is a problem. And then we have to crush our PDAs. Like, this start the process of going dark, getting rid of our digital footprint because an APB has been issued for us. We're burned.
We even get this little news conflict about a news broadcast about a conflict at the port between the Port Authority and terrorists from White Star. So they're already whitewashing this whole thing, like saying we're a terrorist. So we have to survive. We need to burn our sins. Sins are your identity in this. It's basically your digital and physical identity in the world of Shadowrun, which has a real catchy name. So you can become the Sinless in a very 90s turn. This is hard to do. They have to wipe every trace of you, and that would be hard to do now. But this is a dystopian future where there are cameras literally everywhere and such. So they need help. The 2 Shadowrunners we met, Gobbet and Isabel, say, we know someone who can do it. Our fixer, Kindly Cheng. She's a straw sandal with the Yellow Lotus Triad. So she's with organized crime. And she's going to be our fixer.
And just a complete nightmare for Duncan, rolling into this situation with Shadowrunners, and then now we're in Hawk to the Triad.
Yep. Absolute, he does not like crime. And now he hangs out with crime.
and yet all the world is crime around him.
Yeah.
Will he succumb?
Kinda. So Gobbet and Isabel need to go ahead to Kindly Cheng's when we show up at the port here to get you an invitation. She is in a mahjong parlor. You can talk to Duncan about losing Carter, and one of the things I like about Duncan, again, none of these characters are great, but I kind of grew to like him, is he's a raw nerve. Like, he's supposed to be this like super tough guy. He's so sensitive. Yeah. This is the most sensitive character in any of these games. Like, he's a huge bleeding heart about all of this stuff. He takes everything really hard.
Very much so. You know, and like that, that makes him sound one dimensional, you know, like, he just, you know, walking around punching walls and stuff. It just kind of shows like he's traumatized. He is wounded from this past that he has. And here he is drawn, you know, kind of back into circumstances that are very similar to this. And, you know, there's kind of a regression happening around it. It feels like. Yeah.
And when you talk to him, you're going to have this tension between slipping back into these old modes. Like it's almost like he's a recovered addict. Almost like the reason why he wants to stay away from crime is because he did all that crime and it was really rough. And then he got out of it and he worked really hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, you can try to comfort him, you know, about losing his partner, but he holds your disappearance against you. You vanished. And this is where we get to choose our past. We get a flashback to when you left and we get to choose why we left.
Yeah.
I had a friend who needed help there. And you either case, you can say you're supposed to be gone for just a couple days, but you get caught basically. Yeah. You're going to find out later, like you end up going to jail. And that's a really scary thing that can happen as well, like in real life.
Yeah.
You can go somewhere and someone expects you back and you get arrested.
Yep.
You know, and that's it for you. You know, like flashback to not very long ago, like 2 years ago, in which like somebody got fucking black bagged, you know, like how that was happening here in the non-dystopian Shadowrun.
Wait a minute. Non. You're pretty confident about the non you threw on there, huh?
I was pitching a new Indian restaurant. Whenever I say that the world is non-dystopian, I'm talking about this really cool food cart I'm going to start.
Nice, man. I would kill for some non right now.
Me too. And you'll have to get the proper karma to pay for the non from non-dystopian food cart.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I told him there was a job that was was a deal that was too big to pass up. You know, kind of thing. Kind of going along with I'd picked those etiquettes figuring they were going to be useful. I was like, oh yeah, no, my guy just he fell into shadow running early. Right.
Yeah. No. You step out into Hioi is how I pronounce this. It's Heoi.
I say Hoi, but
Hoi?
Yeah.
This is a boat city in the dock. It's under triad control. And we learn that as long as we're here, that we're not going to be in danger from the authorities.
Yeah.
This is not a neighborhood where people call the cops and the cops do not show up here.
Right. So it is its own little alternative power structure that exists, like happens.
Yes.
There's not much to do around town right now. Eventually, there will be people to talk to. There will be shops to go to. Nothing much to do besides to go to the Swift Winds Mahjong parlor. The place run by Kylie Cheng, kind of the big mover and shaker here, right?
Yes.
We go in and find Gobbet and Isabel being dismantled by Kylie Cheng for bringing an APB to the door. You know, just she is upbraiding them, and I love Kylie Cheng. She's amazing. Yeah. She very specifically is modeled after the landlady from Kung Fu Hustle.
Yes,
and you can tell.
No, really good character. If you remember from Dragonfall, the guy who was your fixer was just kind of a guidance counselor who liked your team. You know, just like this guy who would just do anything for you. It wasn't that interesting. They added a little bit a spice here.
Yeah.
Because you can be, as opposed to just being, on this team, you can be basically an indentured servant. Like she points out the power she has over you. With this, like, I say the word and you're out. And if you're out, there's an APB, there's cameras everywhere. You're going to get picked up and killed immediately. She knows that she has power over you, but she's not a sadist. You can be like, okay, well, let's work. And she's like, all right, I just, make me some money.
No,
she makes sense in the way that organized crime makes sense.
It's fun to role play into that relationship too, and kind of fall. Yes, yeah. Kind of like roll into it, just like everybody knows that we're thinking something different than what we're saying, but there is a lingua franca of this like just performed deference that papers over the fact that everybody is acting in mutual self-interest, which is one of the strongest arrangements of all, and it ends up being at least as far as I have been, a very constructive and loyal relationship that benefits everybody. Yeah.
The last conversation we have with her in the game is really good for that stuff. She asks you for your street names. There you get to make up your own, of course. Duncan has this outfit and calls him Gun Show because he doesn't have sleeves on his shirt. And then that's going to stick. He doesn't like it, but everyone's going to start calling him Gun Show.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So part of Duncan's character is he gets made fun of a lot. And if you bring him along with missions, he talks about it, how he used to get made fun of a lot as a kid and stuff. And it ends up explaining a lot of his personality.
Oh, yeah.
To it. Like before he started working out and stuff, he was a fat kid and everyone called him Dunkin' Donuts. And then he used to get really drunk and tell everybody secrets. Yeah. And they called him like Drunken Secrets or something like that. Drunken Duncan or something like that. He's kind of a whipping boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very sensitive. Yeah. We tell Kindly Chang about Raymond, or we talk about Raymond when she had talked to him about him muttering about nightmares. Yeah. The walls breathing, there being thousands of teeth. And he kept saying he left prosperity in there. Yeah. We don't know what that means. That's going to be kind of the arc of the game.
Yes. Yeah. And we're going to be trying to figure out what that means kind of for the first portion of the game. She explains like, hey, this is an incredibly tall order. Burning your sins, especially because there's so much heat right now. We need to make a call for a, filter for our Max Extract Pressure Pro.
Yes.
Yes. And she says, hey, you're going to need to do me a favor. Like, this is going to be the start of a relationship. This isn't going to be a transaction. We need to take a message to a business associate that she has inside the walled city. We're on the port outside of this.
Yeah. It's this Yellow Lotus enforcer named Strangler Bao. I stopped ordering that after I realized that it might have been responsible for some of the purple wedding-esque nightmares I've been having.
Purple? What's the purple wedding?
That's a Game of Thrones thing.
Gotcha.
I was being a dork. I was throwing out a dork reference for more dorkos in the audience. And just, cool. Sorry, man. Yeah. But he's forgotten his place. So we have to go do that. And she says, like, his men are also my men. Like, I want to bring him back in the fold. If you have to, murder them, but try not to.
Yeah.
Again, signaling that this game, even more than the last one, is going to have non-murdery options if you want them. A lot of the times.
Yeah. So we get inside, and Isabel is kind of having some flashbacks here. She grew up here. And
it's worth noting you can bring Gobbet or Isabel. The other one stays. So you get to choose who you bring. Isabel is a good one to bring because she's a Decker, and you might need to do Decker stuff. And also, as you were saying, she grew up here.
Yes. Yeah. Just this place is terrible. I'm really happy that I left. I'm not happy to be back here. But she tells us, okay, Strangler Bao, he's a big dork. He's holed up in this place that he calls the Lotus Den. And it's going to be heavily guarded, but we can likely get around the guards if we go in through the market.
Yeah. There are little side quests and stuff we do on the way here. There's this woman who we run to who claims to be from Hong Kong University, who is taking readings for research into Feng Shui.
Yes.
And she believes that this negative energy of the walled city can create this feedback loop that creates more negative energy. So she came here to make these adjustments, but she can't do it. She just wants to leave. She's out of her depth. She says, can you make these adjustments? Like fix some things. You put out a tire fire, you fix some wiring, but this does not make a difference. Her readings, which is in the future, it's real cool that you can read the key here. It does not matter. No. It's just absolutely rancid. Like the magical energy here just feels like poison.
Yeah. Knowing some stuff about later, it is unsurprising that putting out a tire fire, just one tire that happens to be on fire, doesn't move the needle on this.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have very much effect. And she says that. She says, like, hey, this is a slum. Like, this is really bad, but it should have a noticeable effect.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't expecting to fix it. Like, everybody just, like, is like, hooray, the fire's out. We're fine.
Yeah. So again, something neat about the Shadowrun setting, ideas of chi and of, feng shui, I'm always insecure about how to pronounce that. But it's like these things that are, let's say cultural superstitions,
Mhm.
like it's an interior design thing, right? I understand there's a whole
Yeah.
spiritual underpinning, like because of the awakening and because of the fantasy elements here, these things can be rolled in because, like, oh yeah, of course chi is real. Like
Yeah.
there are dragon lines about, like, it's all of
There are
you
dragons
can't
about.
yeah. There are dragons about it. You can't really write off anything as like a superstition. It is entirely possible that these old things, people just found out about them and were attuned to them before a wider awakening,
Yes.
brought a bigger change to the world. And so you can go to Hong Kong and have something where chi and feng shui, end up playing, big into the plot and into particular missions, right?
Yeah. Not even possible. It's canonical.
Yes.
This is in the Shadowrun setting. This is the sixth world. It works on these cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So like this stuff comes back. And people who are attuned to this stuff, like the idea that there were mages and stuff, like Merlin was a mage in the history of Shadowrun. He was just somebody who had been attuned earlier, things like that. I eat that shit up.
Yeah.
I just like that. There's these guards, when you try to head into the gate, the guards will stop you. Depending on your etiquette, you might be able to talk your way through, I think, if it's gang. Instead, though, you head into the sewers and hack your way up into the headquarters, where you can bypass all the guards and talk to Strangler Bao.
Just in his room alone.
Yeah, just glaring. He tries to play it really tough, but you give the message that Kindly Cheng, you play the video message, and he goes white.
Yeah.
And she basically is saying she knows everything. Like, I know you've been stealing money. The reason why I haven't burned you is because I want to have leverage. Otherwise, I'm going to cut you into little pieces and mail you to your kids and then dress up as Santa, take pictures with them. So he agrees. He's going to come back into the fold, and he's going to kind of become her enforcer for the rest of the game.
Yes. Yeah. And you end up, working with him and having a productive relationship.
Yeah. She returned to Kindly Cheng, and she's very pleased that you didn't kill anybody. Isabel is as well. She's very happy about that. She is the least violent of your crew.
Yeah.
She completes the transaction and burns your sins. This is no way back, and Duncan is moping about it.
Yeah. Another thing that is kind of a wedge is Duncan. Well, you can choose your attitude, but Duncan is very attached to the life that he was building back in Seattle. Like he had finally found stability. He had a place to live. He had something to go back to, and you can decide whether or not you do. But like, this is, regardless of your stance, this is much more devastating for Duncan than it is for you.
Well, like, putting it in context, it's similar to like renouncing a citizenship.
Yeah.
Almost like it's basically the only way you're going to be able to make money is off the grid and via crime. Without this, like, you can't get a job, you can't do things without it. She has unfortunate news, though. She's been looking into it, and she found out that Raymond is dead. She plays this news broadcast saying he was shot by the police for acting erratically, and Duncan's very upset. But then she says, no, but look at this security footage, though, that contradicts that official report. And this is what we saw in the opening. Raymond getting killed by the guy in the tea shop.
Yes.
And very specifically, the main assassin has a very unique look. It is a guy with a suit who has a plastic face.
Yeah. It is, uncanny and relatively featureless while still having an eyes, nose, and mouth. It's like a big implant kind of deal.
It's like he's wearing a Porygon. A little bit.
Yeah.
Like a head crab Porygon.
And so he's going to be kind of a little bit of our MacGuffin. He's the operative, very distinctive. Him walking around with that face is a very arrogant kind of thing to do. He's immediately kind of clockable. So, okay, here's another lead. We've got a guy with a plastic face.
Yeah. What do we do? Yeah. We're going to go after him, but we have no resources to do this. And Kindly Cheng says, listen, I offer you safety for the night. We'll talk about our plan tomorrow. You go and stay with Gaba and Isabel at their boat. They have a big non-functioning boat called the Bolt Hole. They found it was full of BTL junkies who were on the edge of death. They just chased them out. And you get a room.
BTL junkies are people who are addicted to simulations, basically.
Yes. Or bacon, tomato, lettuce sandwiches. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's simulations.
Yes. Yeah. Just they get so into them that they dehydrate and stuff like that. It's addictive because it's joy can.
Yeah, again, the joy can.
So you sleep in your bunk, and this kind of starts a kind of a series of dreams that you're going to be having. You get this little cinematic here. It's a dream about this devil in the walled city, and the geometry is kind of getting weirder and weirder.
Yes.
It's like an infinitely expanding hallway with this devil-looking thing at the end of it.
If you want to get the golden ending of this, you want to have all those dreams, which means you want to sleep when it tells you to sleep.
Yes.
I didn't do it this time, but I've done it before, just because I'd seen it before. But they're tying ending choices behind how much you explore the world and how much you know about the world.
Yeah.
So doing these little side things actually have a mechanical effect. Duncan wakes you up. Before you go, he says, "Listen, I've been thinking about it. I think Raymond's still alive. We never saw him get shot. The camera was hit by stray gunfire. It glitched there for a second. What do you think? And you can support him in this or not. It's up to you."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I pretty much played there's no way to know for sure. So it's worth looking, it's worth looking into at least. Yeah.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
At Kindly Chang's, they are interrogating and torturing a plainclothes cop that they found trying to sneak into the boat.
Yeah.
So again, this is very canny in terms of leverage over you and Duncan. It's demonstrating the value. If we weren't under this crime lord's thumb, we'd be dead.
Right.
Like, it's a protection racket that actually provides protection.
It's strange, we know.
Yeah. It's a fantasy world. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
You've been declared an international terrorist. This guy was alone. He just wanted the credit for it.
Yeah.
So,
if this guy can slip in, imagine what else is here. And then this is when Kindly Chang makes her offer. We work for her as Shadowrunners, these deniable assets. We make her money. We get paid. She provides this protection, and she can use her networks to figure out who killed her client and her operatives. Like, she wants to know what happened with Raymond and with Nightjar and Gutshot, specifically because, for that face saving thing. Like, I cannot be walking around here with this black eye that just people
everyone
around me can be
see.
killed. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then people will start killing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
This gives us free reign to the city, so we can go and talk to everybody. Most of these characters fulfill a function as a merchant for a specific archetype.
Yes.
So, like, an interesting thing that happens is you can go around and talk to everybody. Depending on what kind of character you're playing, you will have no reason to go back or even to some of these people there. But it's worth meeting them, and one of them is tied into that ending, which we'll talk about.
Yes. So the first one that I ran into was Reliable Matthew, because he's right across the street. Also, he's got this, it's basically like a used car barge for his shop here. He's the smooth talking drone salesman who calls everyone beautiful, listens to smooth jazz, and people end up kind of rejecting him kind of from this almost like a Luddite kind of deal, where they say, like, hey, your drones are taking jobs kind of deal.
Yes. There are two some people playing Go, Jin, Lao, and Shu. You can talk to them and check in on them. Basically, one of the things I find a little bit frustrating about how they hide one of the ending choices behind talking to people in this is that it can feel really samey. When you're talking to people, like, everybody is having nightmares and everyone's having the same nightmare. And much in like real life, that just dominated the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, if everyone in my block was having the same nightmare, I imagine that's all we talk about.
Yeah.
So you can kind of check in on these guys for like nightmare chat. A lot of people you talk to and they're just like, hey, you've been having some weird dreams. They have been having some weird dreams.
Yes. Strange alleyways and hallways, these promises of great riches or absolution for failures, kind of this common kind of feature in the dreams being the walled city.
Yes. The magic shop here, the House of Five Phases, is owned by Crafty Zhu, and she is the plot important NPC. So if you want to get the golden ending, you want to talk to her a lot, exhaust all her dialogue when you can. She has books about dreams, and she has visions of this, and talks about how these dreams are not unusual if you're in the walled city. Everybody inside the walled city has these dreams. What's weird is that we're on the border and we're getting them.
Yeah, there's some kind of seepage happening.
Yes.
We talk about kind of the history of the shop. It was founded by her mother. She established it. And she was obsessed with the walled city and kind of the stagnant nature of the chi there, and drove herself to madness researching it. And there is all kinds of research material left around the shop. We need to tell you to, say like, hey, look into your mom's research because this dream problem, there's something to this. And then this starts her down the path that gets you the information that you need.
Yes. One of my favorite characters is Maximum Law, who is this kid, who runs the cyberware the decking thing. He's experimenting with AR. He's part of the Wampoans, who are a faction in this, who we're gonna go meet, who are basically the beginning of Matrix adepts in this universe, like people who can connect to the Matrix without using software and stuff. Kind of the spiritual element. This guy puts on this hard front, and then as soon as you do something cool, he kind of remembers he's a kid, and it's real cute. He's like, man, that was awesome. Like it's real sweet. I like this kid.
That gets him into trouble and potentially gets him killed. His let's say naive enthusiasm for the badass shit that Shadowrunners do, or that you do. Yeah.
Spider Shen is your physical adept character, a monk who does that and melee weapons. Also trades herbs and poisons, which he extracts from his family of spiders. Pretty great. Who I never talked to him again because I didn't have need for him. Again, that weird way that like your character class kind of determines which NPCs you interface with.
Yeah. A place that I spent a good deal of time was Club 88. It is this dance club that is run by a troll family, the Kafai. And this is where you can go to buy guns and chems, and also where you can run into some of the Kickstarter backer NPCs, including weirdly just Felicia Day.
Yep, just hanging out. God, I love pictures of men with goatees. I just there's also a cyberdoc named 10 Armed Ambrose, who is this party metal guy who's a mechanic first and a doctor second. This is where you get your cyberware and stuff.
Yes.
I really only interface with Crafty Jew. In this. My character as a mage started with a gun, but you also have like a magic missile you can shoot for free. And ultimately, I was only using spells, so I got rid of both.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
The thing I learned from playing this thing is that mages are absolutely fucking broken.
Okay.
In this, you get, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it had to do with my stats, but I ended up getting 3, we talk about turn denial. So I ended up getting, there's a blindness spell and a erase memory spell, both of which will make enemy ignore their opponent for 2 turns.
Oh, wow.
So
2 turns.
Basically getting 2 turns. Sometimes it would chain lightning to other characters who are nearby. And then the highest part of that kind of tech tree is getting confusion, which charms an enemy for 2 turns, but it seemed glitched and never ran out.
Oh God! What?
So yeah, I just it was very easy to take people out. Like the trickiest thing was both of those had high AP cost, so either you need to move into cover first or deal with being exposed.
Yeah.
But just every battle, I could spend my first 3 turns taking pieces off the opponent's board.
Wow.
Like it was pretty dumb. It made me wish I had played on like nightmare mode or something. So yeah, mages overpowered.
Huh. Yeah. Yes. No, because the only mage that I really had access to was Gobbet, and that's more of a support kind of deal. Never ran into a lot of the broken stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Very different spells. You also have really good AoE and stuff. That's the separation they made in this. Yes. In the actual tabletop game, the spells are the same. Like shaman and mages can cast the same spells. Here they've very wisely mechanically differentiated them.
That's good.
Yeah. You return to the bolt hole. and see that the hatch in the living room is open. And if you talk to Gobbet, she'll say, "Oh yeah, that weird guy who's renting the basement." You talk to him. This is weirdly enough another party member.
Yeah.
This is a Russian rigger named Raktor. And he is very prickly and territorial, and he has a drone named Koshai. This guy has one of the cooler stories, I think.
Yeah, this is the standout NPC to me.
Yeah, I love this guy. He's really interesting. His life work is this drone, and he funds it by doing freelance drone design and shadowrunning. And you talk to him and you're like, "Hey, have you ever thought about teaming up?" He's like, "Well, I'm not a magician or a decker. There are some jobs I can't take." And you can say, "Hey, join our team."
Yeah.
He does it. It's probably worth taking a quick break to talk about the characters that we have mechanically, like what niches they fill here. Is now that we have him.
Yeah. And then we can talk about Gaishu when we get to him. Yeah.
Yeah. Gaishu is, Raktor and Gaishu are both optional. Here, but they basically give you Raktor by making him in your basement.
Yeah.
So talking about him first, he is insanely powerful.
Oh yeah.
He has a custom drone. Most when you play a regular character in these games, usually have a couple drones who go out, and you're basically trading power for numbers, like raw power for turn economy. You know, and the way that his works is his drone is the equivalent of a very strong character, but he can spend his turns buffing it with these unique buffs. So you can raise its AP, you can raise its accuracy, things like that. While also having him free, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have him use his pistol or whatever because it's not very strong. But Raktor ended up being a healer for me with medkits and stuff. Just using his extra turn. He's a great healer. He's really good, as a gopher, to throw switches and stuff. And even just having those support, fire that he can do from time to time is not bad. Yeah. I didn't end up having fire his gun all that often, but it's just free because you have Koshai, who's amazing.
Yes.
Koshai eventually gets an upgrade to where if it gets hurt, it will regenerate. It's based on this Slavic myth of Koshai the Deathless. Is what's named out of it. And one of his life mission things is to make this drone actually deathless. When you talk to him and talk to his about his story, I don't know where that would fit in. I've
got check-ins in these intermissions in between as they develop.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can talk about those there.
Yeah, right now, he is very articulate and polite. He's kind of genteel while also being aloof. Which is an interesting combination that kind of immediately made him likable to me, likable and mysterious.
Yeah. It turns out there's a lot there.
Yes.
Duncan, we talked about his personality a lot. And we talked a little bit about him, his whole lethal and non-lethal split. His interesting thing is that he is a street samurai who doesn't use cyberware. He just does training and everything. He ends up just being a assault rifle guy. You eventually on his tech tree can have him use more grenades and more non-lethal means to take people out. Eventually, if somebody is stunned, if they have no AP, you can instantly take them out of the fight, which is really useful. You can also get a shock prod for him. That's very strong. And his ultimate that I ended up taking on the lethal path was throwing grenades back. That ends up being stupid good. I never took it before this run because I can't remember what it's up against, but the other thing just seemed more useful to me. I think it's just a really good flash grenade. Anywhere near him, if a grenade lands anywhere near him, it just goes return to sender. It's pretty good. It basically, if you cluster your guys, it makes you immune to the main thing people are going to do to punish you for clustering your guys.
Yeah. This is also a cyberware that you can get. There's a magnetic arm that you can do, but that gives up an arm slot, which ends up being pretty valuable if you're a street samurai. And also, there's no guarantee that you're going to have the strength to throw them accurately, whereas Duncan does.
Yeah, him being good at throwing also means that throwing grenades ends up costing only 1 AP as opposed to 2. He ends up being a very useful party member.
Yes.
Despite not taking cyberware. Gobbet, as we mentioned, is a samurai or a shaman. There are support mages. They can do things to, haste you, heal you, improve your aim, do some area denial. And then their big marquee feature is summoning spirits. It works the same way as it did in Dragonfall and Shadowrun Returns, but it's really useful to get another body on the field that has unique abilities. The balance being it's a consumable usually. She'll start with a default loadout where she'll start with one for the whole mission, but if you want to summon in more than one encounter, you need to buy them. And that costs money.
Yeah. Or, occasionally there will be an icon you can click to kind of bring one in from a battlefield.
Spirit.
Yeah, natural spirit there. Those are hard to control. You can specialize her either for like area denial or like with her spirit kind of deal. You can basically be able to take enemy spirits off the board very effectively and reliably as well, or assume control of them, which is or turn them to your side, which ends up being very valuable.
In physical space, she's kind of shitty. I hate her gun. I hate Uzis. If I could strike every Uzi from video games, I would. They're never good. They just never work.
No.
So her physical skills tend to be getting out a lot of shots at lower accuracy that have a chance. At the end of her tech tree, she gets a ability called Flush Out, which doesn't do very much damage, but removes cover bonuses, and that ends up being useful. But in general, she's a support character almost entirely. Unlike Isabel, who you would think would be only support.
Oh yeah. Gobbet's personality, she's kind of a crunchy, slob art student kind of person. She has 2 pet rats. They're not, special. She just kind of picked them up off the street to take care of them, kind of as a.
You can ask her where she got them, and she acts like it's the stupidest question in the world.
it's like it's Hong Kong.
Rats
it's
are
not
free.
like there's a shortage. But she's very young. She started kind of shadow running at an early age, and like the time that you spend with her is her kind of giving you like these lessons from her previous runs, kind of explaining how they went and like asking like, hey, what would you have done? Like what's the takeaway from this kind of deal?
Which is fun. Like I like the little like stories of runs gone wrong, because Shadowrun is a game where it's fun when things go wrong. Is the idea. She's a good character. Her real name is Gobbet because her mom just thought it sounded pretty. It's not her Shadowrun handle.
No.
Isabel is very shy and very socially awkward. There's going to be reasons for that, which you're going to find out. Mechanically, as we mentioned in the opening, she is kind of starts off as a fine decker, loses value as the game goes on. Doesn't keep up with the curve. In physical space, she's pretty good. She has a customized pistol that causes bleed. And then she gains, she has a grenade launcher as well, which is really good. It can only fire 2 shots, but does really good damage. And then ultimately she gets some kind of like gadgets that she can get.
Well, like on the grenade launcher, you can end up taking level up skills that give it the ability to set enemies on fire, and I think there's an acid one as well.
There's one that strips armor.
Yeah, it's it ends up being it's funny because naturally she does not become a better decker because her deck doesn't improve, and each time she levels up, you're given a choice. Like her 2 paths are decking or physical space, and it's like, man, I really want the upgrades to that grenade launcher because that ends up being how I use her. She's incredibly good in a pinch once you learn how to manage the splash damage on that. But like she needs every advantage she can have if I'm going to be relying on her as her decker, as our team's decker as well.
Yeah. It makes me want to try it. I mean, I probably won't play this again because 3 times is probably enough. But if I ever did, I would try a decker. Yeah. She also gets a thing in her eye which allow her to blind people, which I talked about how powerful blind is.
Yes.
In the mage section. It has a way less of a chance to hit, but if you hit, it does take somebody out for 2 turns, which is huge. There's one more party member who we're going to meet later who is also awesome, like mechanically and character-wise. Is really powerful and good.
Yeah.
So we go, we kind of start talking with the other runners, we're asking them about their dreams. Everyone's having the dreams, so they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
We go to the mission computer and we start our first of our jobs. They give you options for them. You can do them in any order. You also don't need to do all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine playing one of these games where you don't do all the missions because like it's what the game is.
They're good.
Yeah, I mean it's the primary content. Like you're not clearing bases in Far Cry,
right?
This is what the game is made of.
Mm-hmm.
And they are good.
Yeah,
so.
My understanding on this, I haven't done it, but the one that's about geomantic sabotage, you don't want to do that very early on. Like that is considered to be the rough one. We're going to talk about that next episode, but you get 3 at the start here.
Yes.
Yeah.
On your computer also there's a message board. There's the Shadowlands. There are funny jokes in this.
Yes.
I was already kind of reading out from this, but there are funny things in it. One of the things I really like is that Gobbit posts under a variety of pseudonyms.
Yep.
On there and is mostly recommending restaurants and then people getting food poisoning and such. From her horrible taste. At one point, she tosses you an oyster. She's like, "Here, have this oyster," and it's like, "Fucking, I found like a boat oyster." Just like, where'd you get it? Yeah. That ain't good. Like
those are just Bridge River crabs.
Yeah, you just toss me these delicious barnacles.
Crab people now. We're living off the fat of the sea.
What are these all these delicious clams here that are stuck to the boat? I'm gonna boil them up and
these delicious clams. Yeah. She's not very hygienic
because she's a rat shaman. Even though rats are very clean. So the first mission we're going to talk about here is the Dig. This is an archaeologist named Mr. Drake. Was hired to consult on this mansion expansion that is going to have a museum edition and uncovered a number of valuable artifacts. However, he ran into a snag.
Yeah, his business partner, Lu Hua, kind of sold the lot of artifacts out from under him. And Drake wants us to recover as many as we can, along with these possibly magic books that would be dangerous in Lu's hands.
Yeah. This mission, like several of them, ends up kind of being in 2 parts. Like there's an A and a B side. The A side is the fun game activity kind of part of it. You're in the museum that's constructed over the dig site. Mr. Drake will do a appraisal of all the artifacts you see. You need to steal a minimum of 5,000 new yen worth, and you can steal up to 10,000 new yen worth for a bonus. So it's you, and you have up to a certain amount. Like you can get 10 objects. Yeah. Once you get 10 objects, the alarm will go off. So you're kind of like working with your budget here. And the trick to this is getting into this guy's back room. There's a little puzzle. You go to his office computer, it's locked. There's a painting on the wall. The Lady of Shalott, 1888, which is a painting of a Tennyson poem. You can use this password to get in and unlock a secret door to get some high value artifacts and get past that $10,000 limit.
Yeah. It's a little dirty pool requiring outside knowledge for an in-game thing, but also like, I don't know. Good boy trivia points. It's kind of like, Lady of Shadow, that feels familiar. Google it. Oh, it's Tennyson poem. All right, try that.
I don't feel like it's dirty pool because it's what you would do in Shadowrun.
Yes.
Is you would just Google it, except that like your brain would Google it and then would beam a Pepsi ad directly into your soul. You'd immediately have a craving for like Pepsi Black or whatever the future Pepsi is. And then also you would just know because of headwear.
Sorry, the most disturbing for Pepsi would be Pepsi Brown. It's already brown. We know.
Not browner. Pepsi Brown just got browner. That's a brown Pepsi. You said
brown and water. It's brown and water, baby.
You said it, LeBron James. That is a brown Pepsi. Like, when I'm not out on the court, I'm drinking brown Pepsi. Like,
Just teeth absolutely coated with it.
sticks to your teeth. No
That's how you
questions
know
getting
it's
this
working.
Pepsi off. Now I'm wanted at the court. Dribbles off. Like, it's like, no, it's working.
Oh God. So you can also get a preview of what's happening. The owner's computer, you can look at the emails. There have been multiple worksite deaths here under mysterious circumstances. The funding is about to be pulled because it's a liability nightmare.
Yeah,
and
dying.
You learn why. You go down to the basement, this dig site, and of course they're upsetting artifacts after the awakening. There are monsters here.
Yeah. This is a very Lovecraftian kind of thing, right? Like, you know, the transition of Juan Romero kind of shit.
Yeah.
You go to the basement. There are gargoyles who are there. These are monsters that we fought in several Shadowrun games, but there are also these mummified corpses that do melee attacks. And if they get to your character, they drag your character to like an instanced another realm. So that character, you know, it's this team-based tactics game. You can have your squishy mage or your squishy decker. They end up alone here until they can defeat them. It's an interesting combat encounter.
Yeah, just, we can't escape realms. We're always being dragged to a realm.
It's realm season. I know there's going to be realms in Heretic. I can't remember how many realms there are in Hades. I know that the whole thing takes place in a realm, but in our vocabulary, realm means something specific.
Yes.
So it's not just realms all the way down.
We need to get Jim Stormdancer on because he has a very specific definition of realms as well.
Yeah, we got it's a realm off.
That's a realm off, huh?
When you get the two books and you go to leave, a ghost monster corpse shows up, the preternatural corpse, and speaks to you. Says, you know, the books that you hold are living things. They draw monsters towards them. You know, and he kind of tells his story.
Yeah. Says, I once served an emperor, but something went wrong. You know, my spirit did not go with him in death. I instead have been, you know, chained to this site around my body, you know, to this burial site. And it says, okay, you know, you're taking artifacts away. Can you just slip this talisman in among them? If it gets out of the burial ground, then my spirit will be free, and I can go looking for my liege. Right. Yeah. And you get an option for whether or not you want to help him. I did. He seemed on the level.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine it's good to have him out and about, but I did that as well anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and he, what he gives you is a talisman that it's a one-time powerful summon. Worth noting, not that powerful. You don't want to save this necessarily for the end boss.
No.
Just use this when you need it because it's not going to hold up to the end of the game. When you leave, the Hong Kong police force come rushing in, so you have to attack them through this bottleneck in this museum there. And when you get to the exit, the security wipe program that Drake used didn't work as planned, so you have to go to a side exit where there are more Hong Kong police. That's a real Shadowrun thing, like things not working.
Yeah, and routing you through to more people who want to kill you.
Yes. Yeah. You get back at the end of every mission. There's this kind of rhythm where you spend your karma, you go and you check your computer to get your email, and then also collect your money.
Yes.
From there.
Yeah. Isabel has run a report on Raymond Black. His data trail is very strange. Like, recently he started getting pretty canny about data hygiene, you know, security kind of stuff, and it tapered off. But there is also no record of him existing before 2032, you know, roughly 34 years before this game happened.
Dun. And he's an old man. You can chat with Duncan about your childhood. You know, how you used to live in the street before Raymond found you, you know, and whether you liked it or not. Like, he's drawing parallels to how it is now. And you can be like, well, there's a charm to it. It's direct, you know. Isabel says there's a piece of software that she knows that could help us and gives you a little side mission to go get it. And when you talk about her past in the walled city, I said it's hard to talk about because she has kind of an amnesia about it. We're going to find out more about this.
Yes.
What that is.
Yeah, it's going to be related to her side quest at the very least. But it's not like, yes, she is shy and doesn't want to open up, but also like literally there are no details for her to give us right now.
Yeah. Gobbet starts the lesson thing as the veteran Shadowrunner, where she tells you about an old run and quizzes you on what the lesson is. In this one, she went in and she lit a fire to get the cops, to stop going after her. And this thing, there's a theater in the bottom of the hotel or the apartment complex or whatever, with the idea that like cops don't go into a fire to arrest crooks. But her whole team died in it. She tried to warn them to get out and they all burned alive.
Oops.
I love that Gobbet is constantly telling you about all the teams that she's killed.
Yep.
It plays in with some pathos with her quest as well.
Yeah. Ractor talks about his past. He worked at a corp up in the Russian Federation up there, but his colleagues there stole his research on drone self repair, and so he left kind of disenchanted with that. He ended up kind of going around doing shadow running. He was in Berlin during kind of around the events of Dragonfall. He was working with the one lady who was real suspicious of Monica, kind of like the one person in Kreuz Bazaar who was skeptical of her actually being a force for good there.
Yeah. It's interesting that he was mentioned back in Dragonfall. That's slick.
Yeah,
that's cool. Next mission we're going to talk about is Outsider. There's a serial killer that's stalking the elders of the Wampoan nation. These are, it's a sect of tech fetishists who operate out of the Wampoan garden. You're there to stop the killings. And as I mentioned in the Shadowrun lore, I believe this is what leads to tech adepts. Characters.
Yeah, when we say tech fetishes, it's not just like, early adopters or whatever. This is like it's a collective of people who are technologically oriented, but like it is slowly kind of working its way towards almost like a religion kind of deal.
Yeah, there's a spiritual element to the whole thing.
Yeah. So you can talk to Maximum Law before heading out because he is, hear from them. Like he's kind of an away team there, but he only gives just really basic information about what Wampoa is. This hacking collective that provides services outside of the corporate umbrella, untraceable stuff.
Early, you want to bring Isabel here. One reason you want, or Isabel here, one of the reasons why you want to do that is because she's your only decker, and deckers can do things more than just decking things. Sometimes you'll just get an option like have Isabel bypass this, things like
just
that.
Tap them in.
Yeah. It took a while for me to stop bringing her along when I started getting annoyed by decking things. But for a while she had a constant place.
Yes.
She used to live here. She thought this would be a heaven after growing up in the walled city, but she became disenchanted because it was very mercenary. She is the most idealistic member of the team.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of like, I thought this was going to be different, but it's actually very similar. Everybody's just kind of out for themselves, and that is not what she wants. I love this. So this collective is named after where they live. The Wampoa, this huge mall that is shaped like a cruise ship. I love that.
I love looking at the super little detailed isometric arcade in here. It makes me want to go to that little arcade.
Yeah. Oh man, I love like a nice neon arcade.
Looks great.
Yeah.
You speak to the elders. They're like, these killings are too brutal to be a retaliation for any of our deals. They're really nasty. And there was another one right before you got here.
Right.
Tong, who worked for Tong Sensory Carnival, was killed. So you can go and start your investigation there. And this is a very long detective kind of mission. You're not doing a lot of actual detecting work. Like you're kind of going from point to point, but it's a nice little yarn. You know?
This is real combat light. I think I got through this without fighting anybody. Like just because I had gathered enough evidence, like it's just it is a neat way to use this engine for something else besides besides turn-based combat. It's nice. Yeah.
Agreed.
So you go check this out. You go to the Sensory Carnival, and it's brutal. The body has had its limbs severed, and the skin has been removed methodically. I brought Ractor along. My general crew was me, Ractor, Isabel, and Gobbet. Just as a nice complementary force, one of everything. So Ractor says, like, hey, the killer killed them with a single slash to the neck. And Gobbet confirms, like, yeah, there's no fear here. The astral residue, like, he was unaware when he was killed. This was incredibly clean initially. Everything that we see, this brutality was done afterwards.
Yeah. There's a neat, like, you can look at that. If you are an astral character, you can see that yourself. And there's a neat thing you can do by looking at the astral plane when you get to a keypad, because you can use it to sense and see which buttons were pressed, but you can't tell which order.
Oh, that's cool. You do a you do a national treasure, Valley Forge.
Yeah. It's kind of neat. Yeah. Isabel debugs the workstation here and finds out that Tong was creating these BTLs, these better than life bacon tomato lettuces that are the peaks are double what is safe. Like these would have fried people's brains. These drives have been taken, however.
Yeah.
Right outside is the kind of town surgeon and medical examiner, Zippy Toe Tag.
Good God.
Nouns. Gosh. He mentions that there is this other elder who disappeared, wasn't killed to anybody's knowledge, but kind of like disappeared recently before this rash of killings. Her name was Magpie. She was this, we're going to learn she was this incredibly talented decker who was real prickly, let's say, like, not a good cultural fit. But they felt, they were kind of tied to her because her competence held things together.
Yeah, she's too good.
Yeah.
There is a CSI investigator who has psychometry there, who you can talk to, and he guesses that you're the one who is investigating. You can say, "Why aren't you helping?" He's like, "Well, they couldn't afford me." And he kind of he has a professional interest. He'll help you out, a little bit. But at this point, we don't know who is on the up and up. So it's kind of neat that everyone is tripping over themselves to help you. Like, and there are a lot of like nice little red herrings. Again, you're not doing tons of actual detective work, but it is a nice little yarn. Yeah. He says that there's some strange business with this gang called the Red Spears in this nearby parking garage. There was a firefight with the police that happened there recently. You go and talk to them. It turns out they're selling Tong's BTLs, which they stole after the murder. They saw the suspect. It was a tall, hunched over guy in a gray rain poncho.
Right. They will also talk about how one of their guys saw something very strange down in the storm drains. I didn't get past these guys to go poke around in the garage. You needed the gang etiquette, and I didn't want to start a fight.
I wasn't going to kill them.
Yeah, but the lead to the sewers is good enough. I go to this porter who is there outside the crime scene and ask him for the key to kind of get down there.
He's kind of the secretary for the Wampoans. He's going to end up being not a secretary. I don't know how to describe him. He's like a concierge of sorts.
He's like a common. He's their producer. He's a facilitator. Let's say, he doesn't have a lot of authority, but they rely on him to get things done.
Major domo.
Yeah.
So you head down into the sewer. We find this necklace, this magpie necklace with Magpie's insignia. This is near this body that's been chopped up. And we find another body that's been chopped up here that has a tattoo on its arm. We then go and further explore the sewers and run into these smugglers. And you have to kind of, again, try to avoid a fight with them. They're going to try to kill you. And you'd be like, no, I found your comrade's body. And they're like, how bullshit. You're like, no, he's chopped up. And they're like, bullshit. And then you describe the tattoo.
Yes.
And they will believe you. They've been working with Magpie.
Mm-hmm. So they give us the key to her storm room. This is around the point where I went inside the mall.
Yep.
There's a woman there named Rainbow Smite, and she is an Irish elf.
She's not a derby player. Like it's a real it's a real roller derby name. But yeah, she somehow does not play roller derby as far as we know.
She's great. Talk to her. She's this Irish elf who ended up falling in with the IRA, and now she's a cryptid hunter. She doesn't have a lot to say to you about the killings, but she does mention, this Indonesian vampire that she was hunting a while back, which feels like, again, it's another red herring, but it
also feels like forward looking. Like we're going to either go to Indonesia or we're going to go to Tirnanog. Go to Ireland. In this world, and she's going to be a character, which would be cool. Like I really like these little flavor, like when you're on other people on the job. And cryptid hunters are real cool Shadowrun hook.
Oh yeah,
because there are a lot of cool cryptids in this world.
Monster in My Podcast season 2.
Yeah. You go into Magpie's store, the Jack Point. It has a couple of pieces of evidence in here. The deck components, the illegal deck components, have been stolen, and the bathtub has traces of blood in it. Maybe the killer drained the blood so it would leave less evidence when they move the body. I think Ractor suggests that, giving foreshadowing about what kind of dude Ractor is.
He's killing lots of people he meets at funerals.
This is what I would do. When you go to her storeroom, it's mostly empty, but somebody has abandoned a plate of meat. And you can do I eat the meat that is not specified? No.
I'm not going to eat unlabeled meat.
Nope. In a general sense, just not into it.
Yeah. It might be your friend's what was it? Wolf meat? Was it raccoon meat that gave them that gave them the parasites in Sunny?
Oh, it was raccoon, I think. It was raccoon. You idiots! That's such a good show.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. I need to do a rewatch. It's just those early the seasons 1 and 2 are a little rough. So there's a box of keepsakes here. You can poke around in it, but somebody walks in on you. I have it in those barges in. We're actually in his space. It's a ghoul. It is a ghoul who is dressed up in very distinctive samurai armor. Specifically the red samurai armor from Renraku, one of the major corporations here. And this is a guy calls himself Gaichu, which is Japanese for vermin.
Yep. He's hid out here in this area in the Wampoans because of the anonymity. But the spiritual Elder Eng, who is the spiritual techno one, the one that's going to turn into a tech adept, sensed him. She hired Gaichu to kill and dispose of Magpie, who had created trouble for the elders. They didn't like her. But when he went to go get paid, they had set up a police ambush waiting for him. He had been betrayed. That was what the shootout was at the parking garage.
Yeah.
So he started killing the elders one by one to send a message. It's not about them suffering, right? It's purely communicational. If somebody hires me, then you know the cost of betrayal. And that's why when you talk to them, they didn't, or when you sense them, they didn't feel pain or anything. It's not personal.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a sadism kind of deal again, which feels this is the reasonable ghoul. The one reasonable ghoul that we've seen. And it's interesting talking to him about that. And he's like, later on, you can ask him, so why don't you smell like other ghouls do? And it's oh, well, other ghouls, they've been pushed out of society, so they don't have a place to bathe, and they can only feed on rotten meat. So you're not smelling them, you're smelling the conditions.
You're smelling poverty.
Yeah.
Essentially you're smelling the prejudice. The cool thing that, he in the Shadowrun world, the reason why this is a compelling concept for a character is that in the world of Shadowrun, Japan really doubles down on xenophobia.
Yes.
It is very intolerant of ghouls and very intolerant of metahumans. It's very Japanese supremacy.
Yeah.
And this unit he's part of, we're going to find out all about this. These Red Samurai were top of the pops.
Yeah.
Absolute cream of the crop. And his whole arc is about him, being told this lie, basically being acculturated this lie that his people were superior, and then realizing that that's bullshit, and then realizing, no, wait, I'm superior. I am just that badass.
Yeah.
And it sells it. It's pretty cool. And just him subverting all of these ghoul tropes. This is one of the cool things Shadowrun can do. The ghouls are one of the story nuggets of this world. And this is a really great articulation of that story.
Yeah.
I really love Gaichu.
For folks who aren't aware, ghouls are just one of several possible products of a virus, the HMVV, right?
Yes.
So this is a medical condition that he has more than anything.
Yep. This is how you get a lot of the monsters in this world. This is why there are vampires in Shadowrun, taking that, the kind of thing about, like it's just an iron deficiency. And Shadowrun, it is. It's a disease you have that makes you drink blood. Yeah. Here, it's a disease he has where he has to eat flesh. One of my favorite conversations, you can learn how he prepares it.
Yep.
Later, and it's like, it sounds like sashimi. It's like a recipe for delicious raw fish.
He brines it to draw out the collagen because something about the virus makes it so it can't be cooked. If it's cooked, it loses something and it does not provide him the nourishment he needs. And you can kind of have this conversation with him here. Like part of his sales pitch here, is just kind of like, all right, it's not tenable to stay here. You can decide to kill him, see him as a monster, and it's a fight.
Monster. Like it's
not the most enlightened way. Like he's speaking to you. He has a box of like stuff from his old life, like just to and I mean part of the things just talk to him like, okay, like what's your condition here? It doesn't require a lot of flesh to live. Actually, like it's only 8 pounds that he needs per week. Which is that's a lot of meat. But when you think about how much is in a human, it's actually
it's a small proportion of human.
Yeah, you could ethically source that.
Yeah, there are people naturally dying.
Yeah,
here. You can offer him to come with you. Isabel does not like him,
right?
And does not really like that you're doing that. Everyone else gets along with him pretty well.
Yeah,
there.
No.
And he says like, I'll come with you, but I need to have my revenge.
Mm-hmm.
You confront the elders with him, and there's this really great reveal scene, this like Knives Out evidence presentation scene. The Porter Lamb acts as the adjudicator, and you present the evidence, and they have plausible deniability for a lot of it. They have answers to a lot of the stuff. Tongs, but you can keep pressing them and keep presenting evidence until Lamb sides with you. And Gaishu is like, all right, like pulls out his sword, time to go. And you have to talk him down if you don't want to kill the Wampoans, which will make Auntie Cheng happy and provide some mysterious benefit. I don't know. I just did it because I didn't want to, let them judge their own.
Yeah. That's more of anything. This is an autonomous, kind of place. They have their own law. These people are shits, but like this is also, they've been exposed. Like part of this is the truth. The truth about Magpie gets out. So it's like, they're going to be dealt with. They just could kill them now or let them actually face the music for what they've done. Yeah.
And Gaichu doesn't like it, but he'll accept it.
Yes.
Yeah. He eventually would come to really like you. If you, depending on how your talks go and stuff.
Yeah.
Here, he's just willing to accept it out of convenience.
Yeah.
He goes and lives in Ractor's closet, very Bender-like.
Yep.
And mechanically, he is a melee character because he's a ghoul. He's blind. He can sense things, but only when they're close to him. So he can't really use ranged weapons very well. He can use throwing weapons. Okay. But he cannot use guns anymore.
Right.
So his mechanical hook is that he is a close combat character who has different stances he can be in with his sword that give him different benefits. He has an AP kind of stunning stance. He has a more deadly stance that sacrifices defense, or he has a neutral stance. And his upgrade paths are really interesting because they're whether he wants to lean into being a samurai or a ghoul. Yeah. He can start getting ghoul powers, like regenerating and spitting acid and like emitting a poison cloud, stuff like that. Or you can take things that upgrade your humanity, like your samurai powers, and that's what his story is going to be about.
Yeah. I end up taking all of his ghoul powers while keeping him engaged with his humanity in the story.
It's not an integrated choice.
Yes.
It's reflective, but not integrated, I guess, will be the way I put it. Like those mechanical things are themey, but they don't twist the knife.
Right.
With that. A bunch of the ghoul ones are just cool too. They give them added utility.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Stink Cloud one is really good because he's likely to be your only melee character. Like you could play as a physical adept in this, but he's probably the only person who's up in the mix. Yeah. So there's really no downside to him spraying out a Stink Cloud when he's up there.
Yeah. Love it.
So intermission here, you return back to Hoy and do your rounds. Talk to Gobbet about this other mission that went wrong. We learned about her previous living situation before she came to Hoy. She was living on a raft, just moving from floating conveyance to floating conveyance. But she was there with a bunch of these other shaman. This place called the Sinking Ship. And they had accepted this job. She had accepted this job to steal a magical artifact that didn't have a name. The leader was just like, "Oh, it's a shiny object. We're going to take that." Yes. And of course, the job went wrong. Somebody on the team used it, and whatever it summoned cut everybody to pieces. Like it was no good.
Yeah, it was a big mistake. She ended up being cornered with half of her team and the object.
Yeah.
In an area, like really fun, just Shadowrun, like war stories kind of things of like things going wrong. Here, this is going to lead into her loyalty quest eventually.
Yeah.
We talked to Ractor. He talks about his post-human future he wants to see. He is a big singularity, kind of transcendence guy.
Yes.
Humans can direct their own evolution without something as messy and imprecise as sex.
Right.
And the way he talks about it is like an architect. He's not talking about it like somebody who has skin in the game, which again is going to foreshadow his, sociopathy, which he has, which he's very comfortable with. Kind of an inversion.
Yeah. You can talk with Gaichu about his past. He was this red samurai for Renraku, but he was bitten and infected with the HMHVV, that virus. And specifically in Japan, the Yamato Act enforcing racial purity would have compelled him to commit suicide, but instead he ran off, figuring, I'm actually more capable than I was before. This doesn't make me lesser. And all he'll talk about right now is like, I ended up leaving and came to Hong Kong to disappear. There's more to it than that, but we have to get to know him more.
Yeah. I think the reason why his storyline works for me where other Honor ones don't is because the ultimate conclusion he comes to is a rejection of things that make you that you're not in control, that you didn't have control of, that you didn't author. Like he is making a very strong argument towards nurture over nature.
Yeah.
And a lot of Honor conversations, when you have a master or what have you, it's something you're born into. Yeah. It's like something you can take, but it's all just, it always feels circumstantial to me. And it's a very individualist take on honor and competency.
Yeah. It's individualist and it's like an outright rejection of essentialism.
Yeah. And
which I think is important. Yeah.
Yeah. Essentialism sucks. Like, duh. I don't know. Like we've been learning that in stories since I was like 4.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're this because you're this race. You're this because you're born this way. Like, no, I mean, you're just a person. You get to be all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm philosophically on board with it. Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing really new with Isabel here. Kratiju talks about the dreams everyone's happening and how these are actually omens. This portent of seeping, this leakage from the astral plane, and interrupting them or interpreting them, rather, the omens incorrectly would be very dangerous. The most dangerous thing you could do.
Yeah. Well, interrupting them could be dangerous if the person having them is sleepwalking.
Oh yeah. Sleep shadow running. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. Around here is when Reliable Matthew starts getting labeled a job stealer. He insists, no, they're actually job creators. They augment, they let people do stuff they couldn't do before.
Just there wouldn't be Shadowruns without them.
Yeah.
Like this gives riggers a job.
Yeah.
We get the last thing is we get this little urgent message or a message about an urgent job. This doesn't mean anything. There aren't time limits in this. The only thing that happens is when Gobbet goes off on her loyalty quest, you can't use her until you do that loyalty quest.
Yeah.
But when it says urgent, you can ignore it, which is a hand wave I always really appreciate. The war between the Lotus and the Red Dragon has escalated. There's an opportunity to bring Knight Errant down on them by planting fraudulent visitor data in an Ares computer.
Yeah. So basically, let's bring down this PMC on a rival gang by making it look like they stole stuff.
Yes.
So this is the mission misdirection. Ractor asked to come along on this after we accept it, saying, "Yeah, the people who stole my auto healing drone research, they went to work for Ares. I believe that they're here. So my best chance at getting my stuff back is probably if I come along. And you want to bring Ractor along; he's useful.
Yeah, he's very useful. They kind of roll his loyalty mission to this rather than giving him his own bespoke thing.
Yeah."
You have to get past the lobby. Corporate etiquette can do this, or Ractor can do it. If you're flipping it, it's real fun. He steps forward and kind of big dogs it. Yeah. You can also, if you have Gaishu with you, the receptionist goes, "Oh my God, a ghoul." And Ractor has to come forward and be like, no, this is actually an experimental drone I'm working on that integrates biological circuits, and basically big dogs are about it. It's real fun.
That's great. You get Ractor using his corporate etiquette.
Well, and his social masking, which we'll talk about later. Like, he knows how to play parts. You get to this lab, and you find out the self-repairing drones are locking out administrators, both digitally and physically. They're prioritizing their own work, and it's freaking out the scientists. Like, it's on the path towards AI.
Yes,
that's what it feels like.
They're pushing us out of the room when we try and do anything to them when they're self-repairing. Like, the administrator is God, right?
Yep.
And this goes against that.
Very scary. This is a very clever mission, because initially it seems very stock. Like, go plant some stuff here. But as you're in the lab doing your business, you hear an explosion. Another set of Shadowrunners is also here after this laser prototype.
I love this.
That we have to get. So we had to get, we're going to plant that visitor data, but we're also going to steal a tracking device on this laser pistol prototype. And Kindly Cheng, we took the job, is like, you can keep that if you want. Yeah. When we get here, they're on the other side of this glass. They're trapped with security coming up behind them.
Yeah.
And you can let them in, or you can just watch them get slaughtered here if you want to, if you're a monster.
Why would I do that?
No, I don't know why you would at all. Well, because they're here to get the same thing you're getting. Like, you have to choose to trust them.
Yes.
They're also being paid to get the same object you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But also Knight Errant sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I would rather unite. There's a plausible reason not to.
And Shadowrunner solidarity. Yeah.
Yeah. You end up talking to them, working out peacefully. Like, they kind of fucked up. Yeah. They're underprepared for this. And they'll make a deal. They're like, listen, how about this? You hold on to until we're all out. Let's figure it out. We're going to come with you. We're going to gain our numbers. And here's a key card that we found.
Yeah.
And as this happens, an alarm goes off and the floor starts getting gassed. So we have to fight off Knight Errant guards, either while Isabel goes into the matrix and shuts off the gas, or you send a drone into the vents to manually turn it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I sent Isabel there. Just big stealth that you end up doing. The time shift is weird. If you are in the matrix and not detected, you can just run around as much as you want as though time is not passing. If you are spotted, then you lock back into the turn base and you go back out. It is really strange, and they just haven't nailed it.
It's meant to be, you're moving at the speed of brain.
Yeah.
And there it's supposed to emulate it being faster, but they really can't when combat's involved. Mm-hmm. You'll have multiple combat rounds inside the matrix for each one that's outside of the matrix.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, that's basically how it handled it in second edition Shadowrun as well. It's inelegant.
Yeah.
So, I had left Isabel at home for this, so I ended up using my drone.
Mm-hmm. So you deal with these guys, another big hallway fight, as the way this ended up working out. And you get down to the basement, and we have to decide who gets the gun. I remembered what Kindly Cheng said. It's like we just need to send the tracking device over to the Red Dragons. And I was like, okay, let's split this. You guys take you guys take the prototype. We take this. There's no reason for us not to work together on this, especially with Knight Errant bearing down on us from behind. It's
a real concern, though, because if you decide to keep it, you get a cool weapon. But
I read so much up in the lab about how sucky this thing was.
Lasers are interesting. This is also a Shadowrun thing. like how everyone wants to perfect lasers and they really just struggle with it.
Yeah.
Like you can make them work at short distances and they're very powerful, but the battery pack just like barely gets off enough shots for it. Eventually at the top of Raptor's tech tree, you can get his drone laser. That's really powerful. It's one of two options. Like his split is melee and ranged, basically. That is, they're also, we didn't really talk about this. They're unique weapons you can find in this game. It's really interesting. Like there are more of them than I found, and they're really good. I just didn't end up finding them all. So you can choose if you want this weapon. If you let them go, they'll owe you a favor.
Yeah.
This plays into the penultimate mission.
Yeah.
You go through the subway tunnels. You can also just let them go and let them go on their own, or you can keep them with you. You want to keep them with you though, because you have another fight coming.
Yeah.
Raptor shuts down this generator that will stop the night errant enemies from coming from behind you. When you get to the end of the tunnel, there's a third group of Shadowrunners, and you've been reading about these guys up in the tower. Like, these people who tried to break in, it was nothing, etc. These people decided, they kept trying to do the Shadowrun, failing at it, and decided to wait outside for someone to succeed and then hold them up.
I just love this three group pile up that happens.
It probably happens all the time in Shadowrun.
Oh yeah, just like the same information probably gets out. Like, all right, we have this very valuable prototype. It's going to be a race. To get it. Yeah,
there's a data leak, and now there's like a gold rush. These guys, they made me mad. So I was just like, fuck you guys, and they go down really quick. No problem.
You have them outnumbered.
Doing this loyalty quest is what allows each of the loyalty quests gives you a mechanical upgrade for the character. Raptor adds a self-regenerating function to Koshai. So now if he gets critically hurt, he'll start coming back to life.
It's great.
That's where we're going to leave it. For this episode.
We'll be back next episode talking about the rest of the missions in the game. Real excited. There's some cool stuff there in the back half. Doesn't make sense to do any kind of wrap up stuff, but this is an interesting companion to Torment, I think. If
you have anything to say about Hong Kong or Torment, please send us a message at Duckfeed.tv/contact by December 15th.
Yes. If you have anything to say about January's games, which are What Remains of Edith Finch, Heretic, or Hades, the deadline there is January the 15th at Duckfeed.tv/contact. If you have thoughts about multiple games, please write them in as multiple responses. If you are hearing this, there is still time to prepare for Duckfest or Duckstream. Duckstream. It is this weekend as you are hearing this, if you are listening to it on release day. That is a 48-hour live stream for the Transactive Gender Project out of Lewis and Clark College. It is going to be a blast. We are, this year we are joined by Gwen from our community, who will be joining the West Coast crew. That rules. It's gonna be awesome. I'm very excited. I think it's going to be super, super fun. Highlight of the year. Any previews of kind of content plans that you have going on? Current plan is to do another episode of Duck Throat Kitchen. But we actually have gear to make that happen. We have gear for it. We're going to do that. Will is tentatively, and all this stuff is subject to change, of course, tentatively planning to have do Taskmaster. As a block. If people are not familiar with that, that's a British show where they give you some tools and a thing to do, and you just have to find the creative way to do it. It's like a lateral thinking puzzle, but for comedy, kind of. We are going to be doing, Gwen has a PowerPoint presentation about bad video game music planned. I'm going to run several editions of an improv game called Breaking News, where characters read a news report that they have not read before, and they lose points when they laugh or smile about them. And then we might do some Parsley games, which are like Action Castle kind of things. And then on top of just video games. Of course. I'm kind of slowly trying to move us away from video games. I mean, selfishly. You have everybody in the same space. You can do cool stuff like that.
Yeah, and I play video games all the time. You know, like these kind of party, like slumber party vibes are really rare.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there'll still be plenty of video games. Oh, and then Modridge is going to play again on Saturday. We're going to live stream another concert, so it's a real action packed weekend. What are you doing for the weekend?
So normally I stream the entirety of a horror game. Instead of doing that, I have decided to do something that I'm calling random Resident Evil. I have found and gotten operating randomizer mods for the first 4 Resident Evil games. Both the classic version of Resident Evil and also the remaster of the remake. And we're going to just be making honest attempts at those. It's real funny because you can also randomize NPCs and individual lines of dialogue.
Ooh.
And zombie moans and like screams of pain are also considered lines of dialogue.
That sounds so good. It makes me wish I wouldn't be sleeping like while you're watching it or while you're doing it. I'll have to get in your ear about getting that tech. To go through those because that sounds fun.
I am real excited about that. But we're going to be running that. Which ones I do are going to be randomized. There may even be some other randomized kind of stuff as we go, and that will be in addition to multiplayer stuff. The level folks are going to be popping in and out over the course of it, and we're going to be also like some Jackbox and getting viewers involved as well. But I'm looking forward to it. It took me a while to figure out what I was going to do, and I spent a good deal of time getting the technicals put down for this, and it works, and I'm happy. So
yeah, it is a consistent great time.
Yeah,
it's gonna be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
If you are listening to this and you are a non-straight, non-white, non-cis dude, and you have a project you'd like us to highlight, please send me an email at Gary@Duckfeed.tv, and we will do so. This episode, talking about Dicey Prospects, which are a D&D book publishing company who publishes through Drive-Thru RPG right now, doing 5th edition and system agnostic D&D source books. So kind of look at, if you just search Dicey Prospects, spelled like it sounds, on Drive-Thru RPG, you can find their work. Really cool looking stuff. The catalog of contemptible curses. So just like a big source book for different curses you can get in D&D. Inept magic items. 100 more useless, stupid magical items to enrich and enliven any encounter. Things like that. So there are adventures. There are little source books here. There are compilations of NPCs, things like that. All kinds of things to make D&D more fun and interesting to run.
Yeah. Their number one product on here is called Mimics in the Museum. The main focus being horror and humor. To kind of like how would you make the setting of like a museum and a waxworks fun to run in, and I would say that is a very good idea. There is a lot of possibility there. These are all PDFs that are available. They are pay what you want there, but please kick them some dollars, especially if you check out their stuff and you like it. So that is Dicey Prospects. And as I mentioned, if you do have a project, please send that in. We're always looking for stuff to highlight. If you want to support us, you can do so by going to patreon.com/duckfeed.tv. Yes, you get the full version of the premium episodes. This month, that's going to be an episode. It'll be our third arcade special, which will be fun. You also get bonus content, whole bonus shows. It is, there's a lot of value there if you so choose to accept it. I don't know how to say that. There's a lot of value there if you so choose to accept it. Yes, if you so choose to accept it. Sign off. There's a lot of stuff there. Like this month we did, we're doing it Unfilmable on Silent Night, Deadly Night 5. The Toy Maker. The Toy Maker, that movie's fucking bananas. We just did Adaptation Decay on Elf Bowling, the movie, and that's really pretty out there. It's worth your time to hear us talk about that, I think. The movie, no. The movie is not. The movie probably not. The episode is.
So we're putting out a lot of good stuff, I think.
Yeah. And this is, we're capping off a huge year. If you've supported us this year, we greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw out a personal plug real quick. That's okay. The end. So I quit Twitter. It was bad for me.
It's bad for everybody.
It's bad for everybody. For me, the way it was like, I can actually handle the way that's bad for everyone. Like just being exposed to everyone's low sanity all the time. Like all that stuff is fine. The way that's bad for me is I was spending too much time on it.
Yeah.
I just, I have things I should be doing, but it's too easy just to sit there and look at Twitter. I need to eliminate that from my life. Yeah. But what I replaced it with, if you want to go to tinyletter.com/Gary_Butterfield, I've been doing little newsletters every once in a while. Just when stuff occurs to me, I feel like talking. That's where I've been putting thoughts about the Guillermo del Toro Cabinet of Curiosities show, among other things. So subscribe if you want to get a largely jumbled mess of thoughts about various things in your email box every once in a while.
Yeah. Do it.
So
tinyletter.com/Gary_Butterfield.
Yeah, correct. I haven't been advertising a lot because it's just, like I said, a replacement for Twitter. So, but yeah, if you want to check that out, that is there. Until next time, what should they watch out for, Cole?
Until next time, watch out for bad chi flow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Open that up. Don't let it stand still.